Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, with some breaking news. Quarterback Geno Smith is expected to miss Week 15 up against the Philadelphia Eagles, which now leads our question. Should Aidan O'Connell or should Kenny Pickett end up being the starter? My name is Mitchell Renz. Y'all are watching the Raiders Report, and today's live show is presented by Panda Supps. If you need some good workout supplements, use code Raiders for 25% off at pandasupps.com. If you don't know how to get a hold of that link, don't worry. I can put that link for you guys down in the comment section. So obviously, Pete Carroll just spoke to the media. Also, Ashton Jeanty just spoke to the media. And today, what we're going to be talking about today is the Raiders matchup up against the Philadelphia Eagles, because right now I feel like I'm in a little bit of a difficult situation. And I'm sitting up here saying that because all year long, we've been clamoring, we've been asking, we've been begging, put somebody else in at quarterback not named Geno Smith. And I said this yesterday on social media, and I said it yesterday also on the Raiders Report when I went live. I wanted the Raiders to start Geno Smith for the remainder of the season because I believe starting Geno Smith gives the Las Vegas Raiders the best chance for the number 1 overall pick. And I simply say that because there is no tape right now on this Raiders team with Kenny Pickett. There is no tape right now on Aidan O'Connell with this Raiders team that a defensive coordinator could end up looking at. There is a lot of tape right now on Geno Smith. Now, it does sound like it's going to be Kenny Pickett. If I had to bet, and by all the reports that are out there, and according to Ian Rapoport, Rapoport also said that it does sound like it's going to end up being Kenny Pickett, but Pickett's going to be going up against his old team, the Philadelphia Eagles. I will say this, like if we are looking for some good news out of this, Pickett, obviously, he's got small hands. It's not a secret. And when you have smaller hands, it's harder for you to play well in cold weather games. Derek Carr was another great example of that. And it is going to be cold in Philadelphia, 20s, 30s. I don't know what the real wind chill factor is going to be like. There is a chance for sleet, rain. It's going to be miserable weather, which I do actually think kind of helps out Philadelphia because they play that style of FU football a little bit better than what, not a little bit, definitely a lot better than what we do. But then also on top of that, I think that they might end up getting back their they might end up getting back offensive lineman Lane Johnson, because when the Eagles have not had Johnson over the past few years, they're 15-27. So like having him is a really, really important, critical part of getting that thing going. So here's what I want to know. Get those questions in. Hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. When I see a question, I'll get it up here on the program. And my plan is to stay live today for an hour. You want to talk for me for 2 hours? We got 636 people here in the building. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that like button, because blame it or not, I see a lot of people say blame Gino. Phillip Rivers is back. I couldn't wait to go live to be able to tell y'all. I couldn't wait to sit up here and see what y'all had to say. I was going to be giving my 2 cents. You already know that that's the case. But I said this yesterday, and I said it last week, and maybe you think it's a coincidence. I don't know. Does anybody else here have a hard time believing that our Raiders organization has no update on that Geno Smith shoulder? I get Pete said he's day-to-day. I understand that Rapoport reported that it's unlikely that he's going to play, but, like, there's no information at all on that injury. Like, to me, somebody's got to ask that question. Well, what is the injury? Is it a sprained shoulder? Is it an AC joint? Is it just a case of vaginoitis? I don't know what it is, but I'm not sitting up here saying Geno Smith is faking an injury. I am somebody, though, that believes where there's smoke, there's fire. And I was told last week that Geno Smith could potentially fake an injury. I made a video on it yesterday. And if you haven't seen it, it's why you should subscribe to the Raiders Report. But maybe it's a coincidence that I was told Geno Smith could fake an injury. Geno Smith left that game against Denver twice, and now he's dealing with a shoulder injury. Pete Carroll did say this, though. Pete did say that if Geno was healthy, he would be the starter. It was something like that he kind of mentioned in brief, because they're like, oh, well, it's just like a soft benching, which I think is like how the question was kind of being formatted. And Pete didn't indicate that it was a soft benching, that it was a injury. That's the reason why Geno Smith is not going to be playing in this game. But again, maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's a coincidence. And to be honest with you, I hope it is a coincidence, because I would be really, really upset if a guy who's making $58.5 million fully guaranteed tries to rip off this organization for an extra $8 million. Because again, if he's hurt at the end of the season, he gets that $8 million fully guaranteed. So his contract goes from being $58.5 million guaranteed to $66.5 million guaranteed. And Geno Smith, no matter what next season, will make $18.5 million, whether he's on the Raiders or whether he's not on the Las Vegas Raiders. And the way that he can really screw over the silver and black for an extra $8 million is if he is injured at the end of the season. So again, I am not a reporter. I am not an insider. I am not saying that Geno Smith is faking an injury. It's a hell of a coincidence. That's all I'm going to say. It's a hell of a coincidence. So, Paper Bag Raider says there are no coincidences. He is full of it. Yeah, again, man, it's hard for me to believe Geno Smith. It's hard for me to believe Pete Carroll, and that's just based off of what I've seen since February when Pete was hired. And it does sound really difficult. Geno is going to fake an injury to escape further disgrace with more awful play. Again, man, right? I mean, and I know people that watch the show all the time are going to have my back here. And I know that there's a lot of people that really appreciate the content that we provide. So, like, when I say, like, oh, I was told he's going to end up faking an injury, and when I'm told, just, again, certain things that Raiders players, Geno Smith especially, doesn't like playing in front of Raiders fans because it's too hostile, I don't blame him. Like, we don't like Geno. Geno doesn't like us. It's not a secret, at this point, but I just find it to be a hell of a coincidence. So, elect Hondo. I mean, as soon as you see anything that says Hondo Carpenter reporting, I think you're just better off Xing out of it. Because, again, man, I don't see any way in hell that the Raiders show any interest in John Gruden. And I think if you're an organization like the Raiders that are showing interest in John Gruden, you can keep firing coaches left and right, and you can keep saying that you're trying, but you're not actually trying. It would be like me saying, well, I'm trying to be on a diet. I'm trying to eat healthier. And then all I do yesterday is eat Oreos, some apple pie, and a little bit of pumpkin pie. It's a true story, by the way. I did eat all three of those things yesterday. My wife, she comes back into town today. So yesterday was the last chance that I had to eat a little bit of food, if you will. Let's go to my man, Rich Wolf. And again, these shows are going to be predicated on y'all. The longer we get questions in, the longer we get super chats, the longer I will be live. Kenny will be loved by the nation if he loses this. You know what's really hard for me is I don't want to root for Kenny Pickett to lose this game. I want the Raiders to lose this game. And again, you can hate me for saying it all you want, but to me, the number one way that we're going to climb out of the hole that we're in is if we can get the best head coach possible, if we can get the best plan to get our next starting quarterback, and having the number one overall pick, you can get your quarterback. You're going to attract the most attractive head coach that you're possibly going to be able to get. But then also on top of that, if you do want to trade back, you're going to be able to get a shit ton of picks for that number one overall pick. The reason why I say it's kind of difficult for me to sit up here and wish Kenny Pickett to lose is because it's a revenge game for Kenny. I don't know if anybody's ever gone up against a former team. I don't know if anybody's ever gone up against somebody that you used to represent. The only example I can give was my first year after playing college ball. We had where the alumni can come back and they can go up against their old players. And I was able to go up against a lot of those guys that I used to play against. And guess what, man? You're damn right. I wanted to freaking pitch really well. Now, I went after a guy that pitched for the Yankees, so he was throwing the ball way more harder than I was. But, hey, I also went 1, 2, 3. That's besides the point. I guess my point is, I know Kenny Pickett's going to want to go up against his old team, and they're Eagles fans, man. Again, I'm from the 570. Shout out to anybody from Pennsylvania. If you guys want to let me know where you guys are rocking from, area code, I know how difficult playing in Philly is, and I know how difficult those fans are to be able to deal with on a daily, on a weekly basis. It's again why I always say I kind of wish the Raiders media would be very similar to New York media, Philadelphia media. But a revenge game for Kenny Pickett, it scares the hell out of me. And I want to be very clear on that. When I woke up, I shouldn't say that. When I went to bed Saturday night, I would have said I was 1 out of 10 in terms of the confidence level that I would have had of the Raiders to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Now I'm a 4 out of 10. That's because Philadelphia is struggling, and they're really struggling on the offensive side of the football. And now Philly doesn't have a lot of tape on this Raiders and Kenny Pickett offense. The one good side is that Kenny Pickett that defense should know him. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator of Philadelphia, he was there last season. So again, they should know a little bit of what to expect from Kenny Pickett. But the number one person that I don't want to start is Aidan O'Connell. And I hate saying it because if you would have told me a few weeks ago who's the number one quarterback do I want to see start for a game for the Raiders, I would have said Aidan O'Connell. And somebody would have been like, Mitch, who's the number one quarterback you want? Aidan O'Connell. That's how I would answer the question right off the jump. Let's go to the next super chat here on the Raiders Report. Raider Dad, man, you're making my beard look like a freaking landing strip. Why don't we give Cam Miller a chance? You shouldn't give Cam Miller a chance because do you like Cam Miller as a prospect? That's my question. If your answer to that is yes, then let Cam Miller develop to be the best prospect possible. Right now, I would look at Cam Miller as a bottle of wine, where the longer you let it sit, the more value it's going to have, because I think throwing Miller on the road in Philadelphia, now again, he played at North Dakota State. It was very, very cold up there in Fargo. The offensive line might look a little bit different. Caleb Rogers is going to start at right guard, and then Colt Miller is actually back at practice today. So the fact that Colt Miller's back at practice, I would imagine that means he's going to end up starting for the Raiders over there at left tackle. And again, like, the Raiders' offensive line has not been a problem. Geno Smith taking sacks and making bad decisions with the football has been a much bigger issue for the Raiders, especially last week against Denver. You can't tell me otherwise. I actually thought the Raiders' offensive line did a halfway decent job last week against the Broncos. And if you disagree with that, I don't have a problem with you disagreeing with it. I'm just going to simply say you're wrong. And there's a lot of times that I'm wrong on this show. I'm going to give takes more than anybody on the planet around the Raiders. And you guess what? Shooters shoot, shooters miss. That's just how it goes. But I'm going to be in my Kobe MJ days where, Seth Curry, you put that ball in my hand, Steph and I are going to put that ball up and we're going to keep shooting. But like, the reason why you don't throw Cam Miller out there is because I think you're literally pissing away Cam Miller then as a prospect. The best way that you can get the most out of a quarterback like Cam is to let him sit and learn. Let him sit and learn behind Aidan O'Connell. Let him sit and learn with a different coaching staff next season that actually knows what the flip they're doing. Let him sit behind and just continue to learn and learn and learn and be a sponge. And if Miller, let's say I'd say 2027, in all honesty, would be the first time that I would even give him an opportunity, then you give Cam Miller the football. But to me, Kenny Pickett, he's a free agent. He's going to be gone. The only argument that you could give me of why it makes sense to start Aidan O'Connell is because Aidan O'Connell's got 1 year left on his deal. And if he's got 1 year left on his deal, if he goes out there and he plays well, could a team like, I don't know, the Indianapolis Colts be like, shit, Daniel Jones just popped his Achilles. Phillip Rivers, we realize he's 44 years old. He's not going to come back because probably by that time, Phil's going to have another kid if I had to guess. So then what you do is you go, all right, Aidan O'Connell to the Indianapolis Colts in the offseason. If I was the Colts, I think it's actually a great plan to get a quarterback because you don't have a first-round pick in the next 2 years of your draft. And you could say what you want about AOC. AOC behind that offensive line with a running game like Jonathan Taylor making $1.2 million with Shane Steichen is not the craziest idea out there. Again, for Steichen to be able to make Daniel Jones and that offense look the way that they did, you can't tell me that they wouldn't be able to do something similar with Aidan. And again, Aidan's not nearly the athlete that Jones is, but if I was an NFL team out there, I would be interested in trading for Aidan O'Connell because, again, that contract's $1.2 million, and the Raiders are going to draft a quarterback. Let's go to the next one here from Stabler. What up, Stabler? Mitch, what about pairing Mendoza with Cliff Kingsbury? You could do it, but, again, like, why am I going to bring Cliff Kingsbury into this organization? Cliff made a verbal agreement, and it's still on the Raiders that they did not get the deal done because you can't take anybody's word, I guess, unfortunately, anymore. And Cliff decided to, go to Washington. He won a different quarterback in Jaden Daniels. But to me, the number one reason why I don't want Cliff Kingsbury is Cliff Kingsbury, to me, is Josh McDaniels. There's no doubt that Kingsbury is a really good offensive-minded coach. There's no doubt that Josh McDaniels is a really good offensive-minded coach, but not everybody is built to lead. And I think when you look at a lot of the stories around Cliff Kingsbury, I don't necessarily know if he's the best leader of men. And I obviously thought that same way about Josh McDaniels. But if you were to settle on Cliff Kingsbury, the word I'm going to use there is settle. And if you have the number one overall pick and you have the ability to go out and get Fernando Mendoza, if you settle, shame on you. Like, I don't even think Cliff's in my top 10. And if you want to wink, wink, nudge, nudge, tomorrow on the Raiders Report, I'm going to be dropping a video, my top 10 Raiders head coach candidates for 2026. Spoiler alert, Cliff Kingsbury ain't on that list. But do I think Mendoza and Kingsbury would be better than Pete Carroll and Mendoza? Yes. Do I think it would be better than Pete Carroll and Geno Smith? Yes. Like, that pairing would be an upgrade. And I think in the offseason, what you always got to try to do is upgrade. And I hope that the Raiders find ways to upgrade. The number one way you can upgrade, though, moving on from your head coach, Pete Carroll. And, you know, I said this yesterday. I saw something from Mo Martin, and I said it, you know, Mo's saying what I'm saying. I'm saying what Mo's saying. I don't know who said it first. I don't really know. But I was basically like, you can't give credit to this Raiders coaching staff for how these rookies are playing, because these rookies are playing because of all the players that the Raiders staff wanted to play over them, and now they're not playing because of injuries. Like, I'm not going to give my coach credit for that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to give my coach credit for running into one. Let's go to Chris. What's up, Chris? Chris, if you're the same Chris Reed that I used to sit next to in elementary school, you look nothing like the same person. But hope you're doing well. Kenny Pickett isn't any better than Gino, not tripping. I don't disagree with you. Like, again, if you were to tell me at the beginning of the season, rank the Raiders quarterbacks between Geno Smith, Kenny Pickett, and Aidan O'Connell, I would have said Geno Smith, Kenny Pickett, and Aidan O'Connell. It's God honest what I probably did say. But the issue here is not so much Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett from a talent standpoint, but I've watched a lot of Geno Smith over the past few games. Geno is so lost up here, and he just doesn't see the field, that I actually do think that Geno Smith is the worst quarterback on the Raiders roster outside of Cam Miller. I would still say Cam Miller is the worst one on the team, but again, he's a rookie. He's still learning the whole process. There's a reason why he's on the practice squad. But the issue is tape, because when the Raiders have shown you this season, when they go up against a team and that team has time to prepare, and the Raiders have the same amount of time to prepare, we're always the team that's less prepared. And with the struggles of Philadelphia, if the Eagles and the Raiders, when they play on Sunday, if the Eagles commit 0 turnovers, the Eagles will win the game. What scares me is right now Philadelphia is turning the ball over left and right. They had 5 turnovers last week. Jalen Hurts had 4 of them. If they have another 2-3 turnover game with our offensive line playing much better and with a new quarterback at the realm, you just never know what can happen. And it's bit the Raiders in the ass how many times, right? Like, we got 1,000 people watching this show right now. How many of y'all remember the Andy Dalton game? How many of y'all remember the Tyson Bagent game? How many of y'all remember Mariota this past year? Insert Baker Mayfield, right? Like, insert backup quarterback thrown into the fire. And the reason why that's a tough matchup is because you don't have any tape on that team. You don't have any tape on that offense. And that scares me way more than Kenny Pickett, Geno Smith debate. It is, they don't have tape on our Raiders offense this season. That scares me. That gives us an advantage. And at this point, I want the number 1 overall pick. Like, in all honesty, the Raiders would be better off starting Aidan O'Connell if they were actually trying to win this game. You can't tell me otherwise. You can't tell me otherwise that they would be better off doing something else. And if, again, everyone's got their own opinion, but if the Raiders want to win this game, the number 1 quarterback that gives them a chance to win this game is Aidan O'Connell. And that's because if there is a team in the NFL recently that's got tape on Kenny Pickett, it's the Philadelphia Eagles, because he spent the whole year with them in 2024. That's why. And Pickett also looked pretty damn good. 10 of 14, 6 yards. Shedric Jackson, nice little touchdown catch there. I thought he was pretty damn impressive. Let's go to Raiders 98-28. If you want to skip the line to get to the very, very front, you already know. You got to bang. What do we got? Can you make an offensive line video for next season? Like how I would build the O-line? I mean, yeah, it's going to be a video. It's already been a video I've talked about. Where for me, I'm not going to the draft without 2 brand new starting offensive linemen. So I talked about this on Tuesday. I think I talked about it on Monday. And I know people are busy, but it's why I'll always say, subscribe to the Raiders Report. Because I talk about a lot more things than just what's the title of the live video, if you will. So to me, I'm going into next season. Colton Miller is my left tackle. JPJ's our center. We're on the same page, right? And then between left guard, right tackle, that's 3 other starters we got to be able to find. With DJ Glaze, with Caleb Rogers, with Charles Grant, those 3 players got to find 1 starting spot. So if it's Charles Grant's the best out of the bunch, put him at right tackle. If DJ Glaze is the best out of the bunch, put him at either right guard or right tackle. If Caleb Rogers is the best out of the bunch, put him at right guard, put him at left guard, wherever you want to put him. If you're really, really confident that two of those players are going to be good enough to be starters, then they better be playing the final 4 weeks of the season to get this final proper evaluation. Because what I'm looking at is worst case scenario that one of DJ Glaze, let's just say Caleb Rogers, because I think Caleb Rogers has been playing well. Let's say the Raiders go, Caleb Rogers is going to be the starting right guard next year. Awesome. That means Charles Grant is our backup swing tackle. That's an important role for somebody who we drafted in the 3rd round, right tackle, left tackle. Then we're going to be looking at, my God, what's the other name? Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant, DJ Glaze. Now we're going to be looking at DJ Glaze. DJ Glaze is somebody that I thought could play tackle and could play guard. Then he would end up playing like that other backup offensive lineman role. Think of it like a basketball team. We're going to build a really good starting 5, but I also want our 6th man and I want our 7th man to be solid as well. And with $115 million in salary cap, whether I got to go out and sign one of the top offensive linemen out on the market, maybe it's a Braden Smith, maybe it's Lindenbaum. They want to put him at center. You can put JPJ then at left guard or the other starting guard position. But I am using my $115 million in salary cap space, and I am going to try to get 2 other starters, whether that's via free agency or via the trade market. And that's how I'm going to do it. So then you got your starting 5. Then you go into the NFL draft knowing that if you draft that quarterback, you're going to have yourself a solid offensive line. And then you can really build in the defense. Because I think defensively, this is a stronger defensive class from what I've seen. Again, very, very limited sample sizes of what I've been looking at. But I personally believe that this year's NFL draft class is better, and it is better than what I've seen from the offensive side of the football. So hang on, I'm trying to get some of the top prospects here pulled up for me. But I mean, again, like to me, there's a lot of different ways that you can go, no doubt about it. The offensive line's got to be solved by the draft. It's got to be solved by the draft because I don't trust what I saw last season. Because you didn't build a good enough offensive line going in the draft last season. Let's go to Nelly Fig. Going to feel so weird cheering for a loss the rest of the games. I want to celebrate good plays and moments, but want to see big changes too. I hear you, man. You know, like watching Jackson catch that touchdown pass from Kenny Pickett, I was rooting for the tank all game long, but I was up here cheering my ass off, and I think a lot of Raiders fans were because it felt good to see it. I think it also felt good to kind of feel a little bit validated because I thought Kenny Pickett looked good in that game. That first drive by Gino in that Raiders offense, I still say is the best drive that I've seen this team do in weeks at this point. So I do want to be able to give credit where credit's due. And I know Denver was playing a little bit more prevent defense. Again, in a 24-7 game, I expect them to play, a little bit more of that prevent style of defense. So this season is a mental pretzel, just like last season was a mental pretzel. But I think this year, if I've learned anything, and I know I said I wouldn't be Team Tank, I know I said all those things, I also never thought in a million years we would be in the situation that we are in right now. The reason why the Raiders didn't get Ben Johnson, the reason why the Raiders did not get, Mike Vrabel, it's because our job wasn't sexy enough. It wasn't. The sexiest way that our job can be, number 1 overall pick. Can't tell me otherwise. So to me, I want to be able to put our best foot forward in 2026. To me, the biggest issue that the Las Vegas Raiders have outside of just Mark Davis being the owner, Pete Carroll is the head coach. I see it. You see it. Former players see it. Current players see it. I mean, did any of y'all hear what Ashton Jeanty said today? Again, I'm not saying that Ashton Jeanty meant to say it, and I appreciate sometimes the honesty that players have, and I appreciate the honesty that Jeanty had. And if I'm reading this out of context, maybe I'm reading it out of context. But, there was essentially a question about like the Raiders' struggles this season. And he said that, he's not as optimistic as Pete is. Again, don't quote me on exactly that verbiage, but I would say the message that Ashton Jeanty got out there was, yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm as confident as what Pete Carroll is and to be able to figure it out as quickly. Because I think Jeanty's a realist. Jeanty's sitting there going, Pete, like, you're so far away from where we need to be, it's not even funny. Now, the reason why I decided to go live today, and I like to do these types of shows on Wednesday is because the news came in from Ian Rapoport that Geno Smith is dealing with a shoulder injury. Again, maybe it's coincidence, and is considered unlikely to start on Sunday. He won't practice today. That would put Kenny Pickett in line to start against the Eagles, his former team. So that news ended up going down. And my question to you is, do you want to see Kenny Pickett, type KP, or would you rather see Aidan O'Connell be the starter for the Las Vegas Raiders? Let's give some shout-outs here on today's show. This is a little bit of a different style of Raiders Report program, which I know, but these are the ways that I can get you guys more content in the middle of my day on Wednesday. So just so y'all know. Greatly appreciate, again, each and every one of y'all that decide to pull up and make the Raiders Report a part of your day. Because I know there's a lot of other people. I know there's a lot of other places that you could go to. But don't ever think for a minute that I don't appreciate the fact that people take time out of their day to watch today's program. Also, if you do not know, I will be live tomorrow on the Raiders Report. And we're going to be live for Thursday Night Football. It's kind of a shitty game. And I'm going to ask a really big favor here. There is a certain member that I'm not going to mention his name because I'm trying to get him in contact, but he told me something yesterday, or maybe I think it was on Monday. This is a person that if you're a loyal Raiders Report watcher, you'll know this person when I talk about them tomorrow. They're just dealing with something really difficult, and I want to be able to put a smile on that person's face. And we're going to have some fun tomorrow. My team here, we're working on something where, again, I don't chug beers anymore. I'm dealing with my own stuff. And I've had a few fans like, Mitch, can I chug a beer on the show? If you've ever wanted to chug a beer on the Raiders Report, tomorrow is your day. I'm just going to say it like that. I think tomorrow could be one of the most fun Thursday night football shows we've ever done because I'm going to count on the nation to show up and chug some beers, put a smile on a absolute legend OG's face because they're dealing with something. And then I got something planned up my sleeve also. Shout out to Venthrak as well for being the MVP last weekend, for making all this happen. Because, again, we're so much more than a YouTube channel. We're a community, and I'm telling you this right now, we're going to prove it tomorrow. If you don't believe me, we're going to prove it tomorrow. I see a lot of people spamming who they wanted to start. I see somebody said both Javier Gomez. That'd be interesting. Jim says Kenny Pickett. Alex Dela Cruz going to go Pickett. AOC from Brum, man. Roy Rogers. What's up, Mitch? What's up, brother? Rebel in the building. Rebel. I was watching the Knicks game yesterday. I was tweeting at you. Hopefully you don't mind it. I say Kenny Pickett because the Eagles will know how to beat him from Chris. I like that one. Aidan O'Connell in there from Nicholas. Start Pete Carroll at quarterback. Did you guys see Pete Carroll's hand injury today? Apparently he was catching balls on the jugs machine, which, again, I wish Pete Carroll would have worked because he's so fun. He's a guy that he's very easy to like. And he just, again, a 74-year-old catching footballs on a jugs machine and freaking, I don't know if he broke his thumb. I don't know what it is, but he was wrapped up today. And he was like, oh, I'm definitely going to be out there. I wish it could have worked, Pete. I really do. It's probably one of the things that I hate the most about my job right now, that I feel like I have to dissect and rip apart a 74-year-old man who's clearly a really good human being. But I have to do it because, again, the job that you're putting out there is, it's just like having a kid, right? Like, you might love your kid, but you can't let your kid throw temper tantrums. It's a whole nother conversation for Pete, but here we are, the 2025 Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to James. What up, James Mendoza? I know who you want as quarterback. I feel like we need the first pick because I think the Jets are desperate enough to trade the house to steal Mendoza. Please lose out. I know for a fact the Jets are desperate enough. There is somebody who I'm very close to that is a very prominent figure in that Jets, we'll call it media world. My uncle was very, very good friends with somebody. He's been somebody that we've been able to, get some scoops and stories from in years past where, again, we were talking about the whole Davante Adams thing, about Davante going to the Jets way before Davante ended up getting traded to the Jets. But I agree with you because when you trade away Quinnen Williams, when you trade away Sauce Gardner, when you got 3 first-round picks this season, 2 first-round picks next season, and I want to say 2 or 3 third-round pick or second-round picks over the next 2 years, that's going to be a team that's going to try to go balls to the wall. And I do believe that the New York Jets are going to go balls to the wall. I feel it in my loins, and I don't know what those loins feel like, but I do. I think that they're going to go all out. And if you're the Raiders and you have the number 1 overall pick, you got to consider trading back. I will say this. If you trade back with the Jets and they're not at pick number 2, you better know what you're going to do at quarterback. That's all I'm going to say. You better already know what you're going to do at quarterback, because if you don't have your quarterback figured out and you trade back with the New York Jets on draft day and you leave that draft without a starting caliber quarterback, it was a shit plan. You can't have a shit plan. And I hope our new head coach doesn't come to the plate with a shit plan. Let's go to JR. What up, JR? The most Al Davis thing to do is flip the NFL bird, bring back John Gruden. He's the last coach that I bring us winning a record. I actually think the last coach right now is actually currently employed by the Las Vegas Raiders as head coach. Probably a whole nother conversation, though. And I agree with you, man. I saw the Hondo Carpenter article. I think it's an idiotic article. I mean, again, if people want to follow certain people, I want Raiders fans to get as much Raiders content as humanly possible. And I will never tell you to not listen to somebody. I will never tell you to not watch somebody. I will never tell you not to read somebody's articles. You as a Raiders fan deserve to do whatever the hell you want. You deserve to get your content wherever you want to get it. Because if you're a fan on December 10th in a 2-11 season and you're still watching this team, you deserve to get your content. But at the same time, I'm always just going to give my opinion. And the idea of bringing back John Gruden is, again, like, you could take a step forward by firing Pete Carroll, just like you could take a step forward by firing Antonio Pierce. You could take a step forward by firing Josh McDaniels, but you can't take 2 steps back, right? Like, hiring McDaniels, 2 steps back. Hiring Pete Carroll, 2 steps back, maybe even more steps back. So if you fire Pete Carroll, take the right step in the direction. Hiring John Gruden is taking 2 steps back again. And that's been Mark Davis's problem. And I know a lot of people like Gruden. He's super entertaining. He's super fun. But the track record speaks for itself. He failed in the draft. He failed in free agency. He failed in trades. And he is and has been one of the worst NFL head coaches at the end of the season. I want my head coach doing his best ball, playing his best football in December and January. John Gruden is the 54th out of 55 qualifying head coaches in NFL history in terms of winning percentage in December and January. Teams always figured out John Gruden. Happened every single year. And if you're going to say the Raiders were trending in the right direction, I don't totally disagree with you. The Raiders started 3-0. They lost 2 games, and then John Gruden had to resign. I also look at every other year that John Gruden took over the Raiders. They started out strong, and then they fell apart at the end of the season. And I don't see how anybody, and again, I know people don't always follow the show. To me, though, if you want John Gruden back as the Raiders coach, you got to be a part of the Mark Davis circle. And that's only because I do wonder if Mark would have to give him a brand new contract. Would you want to pay the same guy twice for the same job? I think that's kind of a crazy idea. If Gruden's willing to do it for free, I'd say let's be the offensive coordinator. Let's be the quarterback coach way, way, way before I ever give him a shot to be the head coach of the Raiders again. That's my 2 cents. Let's go to the Yeet Master. What up, Yeet Yeet? If you could go to the college ranks to find your head coach, who would you go for? To me right now, there are 2 college coaches that I would consider. 2 college coaches. Now, I've brought up other coaches in years past. I have talked about the Raiders potentially hiring certain guys. But if you told me I could pick, I'd go Cignetti, the head coach right now in Indiana. I actually think he's the best head coach in all of college football. And I think the track record's kind of hard right now to dispute that just because of where that program was, what it is now. Like, Cignetti kind of reminds me a little bit of Jim Harbaugh, where, Harbaugh got his first stint at San Diego, got that program winning football games. Then he took over a really bad Stanford team, turned that football team into a hell of a program. Then he took over Michigan. They struggled. Then they ended up winning the national championship. So I look at Cignetti as kind of having like that it factor, a lot like Harbaugh, but again, Cignetti ain't going anywhere. He just signed that crazy extension to make sure that Penn State didn't steal him away. The other coach that I would go with, and this is just based off of, again, conversations that I have had, and I'm not trying to say like Jackson Powers Johnson told me this, because he's not told me this, but conversations that I've had with players and conversations that I've had with agents, Lanning from Oregon is so well liked, so well respected, that he would probably be number 2 on my list. And there's a lot of other coaches that I'm sure do a hell of a job in college football, but I would say Cignetti and Lanning right now would be my top 2. Those would be the guys to go after. I think it's a great question, Yeet Master, and I greatly appreciate it. Let's go to the real cowboy. Again, we are live here on the Raiders Report. The breaking news is Geno Smith is unlikely to play against the Philadelphia Eagles, meaning that Kenny Pickett looks like he's going to be starting against his former team. Also, some other news that ended up going down that I wanted to be able to talk about today on the Raiders Report was Caleb Rogers going to be starting at right guard. Dante Thornton Jr. past concussion protocol. He's expected to play. Colton Miller practicing today, and he looks like he's going to be good to go up against Philadelphia. Again, for Colton to be able to practice for the first time since suffering that ankle injury back in week 4, I know Colton's been fighting and clawing to play. I give him a lot of credit for going out there and playing because I'll tell you this. If it was up to me, I would rest our starters. I would make sure that JPJ is 100% healthy. I would make sure that Colton Miller is 100% healthy. And I would make sure that Max Crosby, who is still dealing with a knee injury, is 100% healthy going in the next season. Because God forbid, again, to me, I'm looking at it as what puts us in the driver's seat to get the best head coach possible. A potential Colton Miller injury is devastating. A potential Max Crosby injury would be really, really difficult to say that we're putting our team in the best situation moving forward. It's just a fact. But also at the same time, I know that players love to play. I know that guys like Colton Miller and Max Crosby, you'd have to take off their body limbs to have them not out there on the field. I get it. And I respect it. I do. I think all of us here got to sit here and say, you know what, man? I do respect it. We got 1,121 people here on the Raiders Report. If you haven't already, make sure you guys click that like button. Again, to me, this is a new style of show that I'm doing on the Raiders Report. It's just me, no producer. I'm putting super chats up here on screen. I'm doing my best to be able to give you guys some shout outs, to be able to give you guys some love when I see it. But man, oh man, hit that like button. Real cowboy. I can't believe I left this up here on screen that long. Does anybody know the movie reference? First person that I see gives me the movie reference. I'll give you a shout out. Yeah, again, man, is it a coincidence that I was told that Gino's going to fake an injury because he doesn't want to play anymore? I don't know. And I hate even thinking about it, but that's just where I am because there's been so many things that have smelled fishy this year for the Raiders. And there's been so many things that are just clearly questionable that it wouldn't shock me if he was faking an injury because he was just tired of playing for the Raiders and he wants to get that extra $8 million guaranteed. Drew says role models. Bingo. Low key, probably like one of my favorite random comedies is how I would describe it. It's a great movie. If you've never seen Role Models, go check it out. It's a laugh out loud type of movie. And then also at the exact same damn time, it's really sweet in its own way at the end where, again, I don't want to give it away, but it's a really good movie. I also saw somebody ask, Mitch, I thought you had jury duty. Yeah, I woke up this morning with a text message saying that I don't have jury duty anymore. So it was a nice text message to wake up to. I'm surprised I didn't get a bigger heads up, but I mean, I woke up ready to go and then no more jury duty. So very, very good. Let's go to Drew. Thoughts on Carr on coaching staff next year? From what I do standpoint, love it. Like, you told me I could have Derek Carr be the Raiders quarterback coach or be a coach on this team. I mean, for what I do for making content, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. I just don't think Derek would want to do it. You know, again, this is a guy that's made all this money, the extra stressors, the extra press. Like, it's just, I just don't see it happening. He wants to retire a Raider. I've been wrong before, but it's like, what job is he going to do? Like, I don't know if I trust Derek Carr to be our quarterback coach right now. So is he an advisor? Would Derek even take a job to be an advisor? It's a hell of a question. I'll tell you that right now. But I miss Derek Carr. I miss what he represents. I miss having a quarterback that loved this team like his own. And I can't believe we're in the situation that we're in. But, me, I'll say it right now. I took Derek Carr for granted. I did, man. And I think a lot of us probably did. But holy shit, dude. I can't believe we're in the situation we're in right now. Can't even believe it, dog. What up, Suave? I'll take Kenny Pickett because I've seen all I had to from Aidan O'Connell. Again, I think Aidan O'Connell is a better quarterback up against Philadelphia than Kenny Pickett is. Pickett gives you more of the mobility than AOC does, but I'll take Kenny Pickett because I think Kenny Pickett starting against Philadelphia gives us a better chance to lose than Aidan. I fully believe that. And maybe it's not a fair thing to say, but that's how I feel in my heart of hearts. And I don't know if I'm the only one here that feels that exact same way. Stabler, what's up, my man? I feel like Pickett could bring back the Raider mystique just like another Kenny. I mean, if Kenny Stabler was the snake, what does that make Pickett? Salamander? I mean, I followed Pickett for a while. He played college football at Pittsburgh. He was the number one quarterback selected, in the 2023 NFL draft. Just having friends and family be Steelers fans, be Eagles fans, him being a part of both of those organizations. I don't have a lot of high upside for Pickett, if I'm being real. But at the exact same time, what scares me as a Raiders fan is imagine if Kenny Pickett wins these next 4 games. And I don't think it's going to happen. Pickett wins the next 4 games. Raiders finish the season with 6 wins. We finish out of the top 10 draft picks. Could Kenny Pickett be the reason why Pete Carroll saves his job? I have no idea. I really freaking hope not, but I don't know what to think. At this point, I'm a believer that Pete Carroll will be fired. I am a believer that Geno Smith will be out of the Raiders organization next offseason. There's no good offense without a good offensive line. I agree. And I know last year during the draft process, Ashton Jeanty was the sexy name. And I said it, I think 100 times, 300 times, a million times, that Ashton Jeanty I thought was a better overall prospect than Armin Membu. But the reason why I wanted the Raiders to draft Armin Membu is because of all the reasons you're seeing this season. If you can't win in the trenches, it doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter what you do. And then to take a running back with an offensive line that clearly isn't very good, again, it's just not a good plan in place. You can love a player, but it's not just about loving the player. It's about loving the plan. And I look at Josh McDaniels' teams, and they had their plan, and they just tried to stuff players and did exactly what they do. It's not what good coaches do. Pete Carroll, he's got what he does on offense. He's got what he does on defense. Instead of building around what you have, shoving players into what you do is not a smart thing to do as a head coach. It's not what a good coach does, right? I said this the other day where people were like, oh, Mitch, we should go get Clint Kubiak because if you wanted Jalen Milroe, he would already know the offense. I know that he's worked with Clint Kubiak, but if you're Clint Kubiak, if you would run the same offense that you would with Sam Darnold as you would with Jalen Milroe, you're a dumb head coach. You're a dumb offensive coordinator because you wouldn't run the same offense that you would with Sam Darnold as you would Jalen Milroe. And that's been the Raiders' problem. The Raiders' problem are hiring coaches that have had success in the past, and they're going, all right, I'm going to use that past success, and I'm just going to force a round peg into a square hole over and over. I'm going to force that round peg into that triangle. It's frustrating, dude. But I agree. If we can't win in the trenches, doesn't matter. You're not going to win football games. And another area that we got to be able to build is the defensive line because losing Christian Wilkins was such a big loss. It really was. It was such a big loss. Hang on, y'all. I got to grab something here. I got to message the guys here at Chat Sports. All right, let's go to the next super from Darian. What up, Darian? Thoughts? Trade for A.J. Green or sign Kenny Pickett in the offseason to pair with Mendoza? Thoughts? I think it's a terrible idea. I think both these ideas are terrible ideas. Can you just fill this up with a little bit of water? Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Again, A.J. Green, I don't know, how old is AJ Green at this point? I don't really know. He's not playing in the NFL for a reason, but I commented on Just Blog Baby's Twitter, and there was a person that put out an article about, the Raiders missing an opportunity to go get George Pickens. And I felt bad because the person replied to me and they're like, oh, I guess I don't know ball. And I feel bad that's, I want people to write articles. I want people to talk about the Raiders because at the end of the day, the more good people we got doing it, the more content that Raider Nation's going to get. And I'm not saying that I don't look at people's things. And I hope what I'm about to say doesn't offend Just Blog Baby, doesn't offend any other Raiders content creator out there, doesn't offend, anyone. But I don't look at anybody as competition. I feel like I have cemented my role here at Raider Nation as being a go-to place where people can come get information, news. We can have a lot of fun. I don't look at people as competition. So I want people to still make more content out there for Raider Nation because, again, to me, if you're a Raiders fan and you're looking for content on December 10th around the silver and black, you're a sicko. You're a sicko, and I'm a sicko, and I like sickos. And to the person that wrote that article, I just want to say, I hope what I said doesn't deter you from making more articles. It's just, again, man, I want Raider Nation to look at this whole thing as it's okay to have a conversation. It's okay to disagree. I love when we disagree. Growing up in my family, and I think it's why I do what I do now, bro, we would talk for, hours upon hours upon hours about random fantasy football things. And I wanted to be able to disagree with my Uncle Steve. I wanted to be able to disagree with my cousin Ronnie, my cousin Anthony, my Uncle Wayne, my dad. I don't want people to always agree with me. So me saying that, I think it's an absolute disaster. And I think worst case scenario for the Raiders, I legitimately think the worst signing that you could do for the Raiders is going out and signing George Pickens. And I say that because George Pickens is going to be $30 million this season. Do you really trust a player like Pickens, who is without a doubt top 10 talented receiver in the NFL? I don't think any of us have that debate. But to go out and sign a player that I would say is clearly an issue in the locker room, is clearly a player that takes plays off. He does. And, you can get mad at Sherman all he wants, but Sherman was 100% spot on. If you're going to be the guy and you want to go get paid, you can't take plays off and you got to show up every single rep. But to me, the Raiders would be the team that George Pickens would go to, cash in that check, pull a Brandon Ayuk, and then want the hell out of there in a year or two. Use that money instead of spending $30 million on George Pickens and spend $30. I'd rather you spend $30 million on the offensive lineman. I'd rather you spend $60 million on your offensive line than spend $30 million on George Pickens. And to me, there's talented players in this year's draft where if you can find a receiver in the third or the fourth round, and then you pair that with your Michael Mayer, your Brock Bowers, your Trey Tucker, your Jack Besh, maybe Dante develops a little bit more. That's still a really good offense because if I'm going to pay a receiver $30 million, he better be willing to block. And one of the reasons why Pittsburgh traded him away is because he would just give up on plays that he knew he wasn't involved in. It's just, when you draft a running back like Ashton Jeanty and you got two young tight ends in Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, I literally think the dumbest move the Raiders could make this offseason is going out and signing George Pickens. And I think it's for all those reasons. Do you agree with me? Y for yes and for no. I got to get a little bit of caffeine in me. I hate to admit it, but you can call me lame all you want. I haven't been sleeping as well without my wife. She comes back today, which I'm super excited about. She's been away in Mexico. She was visiting family for the past. She left on Friday. She comes back today, and I think it's honestly more Chuck, because Chuck is waiting up for her. And every little noise he hears, he gets up and he's like, oh, shit, is that mom? Is mom about to come home? And he's not a tiny dog by any stretch of the imagination. So we've been dealing with some sleep. Dad's been a little sleep deprived. And I know I'm not the only dad here that's probably a little sleep deprived. And some of y'all are like, wait till you get kids. Alex's mom always says, get another dog before you get another kid. I'm seeing a lot of yeses down below. And I think people, again, agree with me on the whole George Pickens thing. A good team, a Super Bowl caliber team should go give George Pickens $30 million. Because that's the only scenario where I think Pickens plays well. If you were the Raiders and you were in your Super Bowl window, then yeah, I like the idea of going out and getting Pickens. Putting George Pickens on a team, imagine George Pickens, what he would be acting like on this current Raiders team. I don't even know if he'd be on the field. I don't even know if he'd be on the field. Like, if you give George Pickens $30 million and you decided not to give Jacoby Myers a contract, that's just everything wrong about what the Raiders do in terms of their decision-making process. All right. What up, Juan? I would be comfortable if Kenny Pickett could win out the season. I said on this show, Gino sucked when it was first announced, and he got the job. I've watched him up here in Seattle. He sucked. Stats lied. I agree with you that his stats lied, because I think Geno Smith was much better than his stats indicated when you look at the tape. And again, I'm not going to get into defending Geno. I've defended Geno so much this offseason, and all he's done is shit the bed and block me on social media. So you deserve to take your victory lap. But I do think, like, from watching the tape, Geno was much better. I really think that Geno got paid and cashed it in. Like, I will continuously say that. But I don't know how you could be comfortable with Kenny Pickett. I guess, Juan, my question to you would be, who do you want to be the head coach? Like, who are your top head coach candidates? Because you can throw them all out the window if this happens, and that's fine. I mean, to me, if this is what you want, if you would be comfortable with Kenny Pickett, that also tells me that you would be comfortable with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll returning next season. But, I mean, if Pete returns, I still don't think Geno returns, if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, just because, again, he wants out. But if you're comfortable with Pete Carroll being the head coach next season, I would say then this is why you said that. I am done with the Pete Carroll Raiders. I can't do it anymore. People could say, well, Mitch, we keep hiring and firing people. I get it, but also at the exact same damn time, like, again, if you take one step forward, but you take two steps back, it doesn't matter if you fire somebody. If you don't hire the right guy, it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. That's how I feel. Colton Miller back at practice. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's good. I'm happy for Colton. I talked to Colton recently, and he was like really, really fighting to get back out there on the field. And again, I've met many Raiders players. Colton was probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met. His stepbrother told me one of the funniest stories I've ever heard about Colton after the wing eating contest, which I think I've mentioned before on the show before. I'm not going to mention it now, but yeah, for a Raiders offensive lineman to show up to a charity event to support one of his teammates and then just randomly participate in that charity event to raise more money, that's the type of human being Colton Miller is, and he's does a lot of really, really good things for the community as well, and he does a lot of really good things for Challenger League sports. My old stepbrother, it's many, many years ago, we used to always do Challengers League baseball. And anybody that's ever been around somebody that's, has special needs, they are the nicest people. They are the nicest human beings on the planet. They have the most love in their heart. I miss him every single day. And it's just one of those things, like, Colton Miller's got a really, really good heart. And if Colton's going to go out there and play, like, that's going to be one of those guys you're damn right I root for. But holy shit, I'm going to be holding my breath if he ends up going down. Let's go to Caleb Tarr. Again, y'all, we are live here on the Raiders Report. I've been live for 53 minutes. If you haven't already, make sure you guys click that subscribe button. We're going to be pumping out more content like this. I see a lot of people are watching. And Juan Rodriguez says, no Pete Carroll. Then you can't say you're comfortable if Kenny Pickett could win out the season. Again, like, that's like saying, I want to eat healthy, but I'm only going to eat McDonald's. I want to get married to my wife, but I'd still like to be able to keep my options open. That's what you're saying to me right now. Poor Kenny Pickett was a backup on a Super Bowl team last year versus Taylor Swift Kingdom. Now he's Eugene Smith's backup. That's a fall from grace, but at the same time, he's got a Super Bowl ring, so congrats to Kenny Pickett, because I know this, Eugene's never going to get one. Never, ever, ever, ever going to get one. Stabler for president. Starting to really like the idea of trading back with the Jets. To me, again, it's where are the Jets drafting? Because right now, forgive me, I don't know exactly where the Jets are drafting. I don't know if they're in the top 5. I think they're at 6 the last time my memory was there. 7. if you're the Raiders, like, you just can't afford to trade back to 7. I would say the only way that I would entertain the idea of trading back to a spot, again, not at number 2, because I said today on my show, the video that I put out, if you're the Raiders, you draft Mendoza at number 1, you draft Dante Moore at number 1, or you trade back to number 2 and draft either Mendoza or Moore at number 2. The only way I would consider the idea of trading back to a spot like number 7 is if you do the other 2 plans that I talked about on my Raiders Report show today. And they involve trading for 2 other quarterbacks. So if you didn't see that video, I put out a video today, Raiders 2026 draft plan. If you're on the idea of like trading back and getting a shit ton of picks with the New York Jets, then to me, you have 2 other options. And they were the final 2 options that I talked about on today's show. If you want to see what they are, I encourage you to go check them out. Let's go to Preston Rodriguez. What's going on, my man? What's up? What's up? What's up? To the 1,000 people here in the building right now. Geno Smith not expected to play against Philadelphia, and it looks like Kenny Pickett is going to be the starter. Preston, is Geno's whittle fingers hurting with whittle feelings? He's acting like a whittle. You know, it made me think what you just said there is, can you name the movie? Again, I like movies, and I recite certain movies over and over again because there's just certain movies that I know quotes from. My fingers hurt. Oh, your fingers hurt? Well, now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty. Like, I don't know, you saying that made me just think of that. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. And if you like that person in that role in that movie, if you've never seen the movie Heavyweights, like if some person were to ask me, Mitch, what's like the most random movie that's probably like one of your favorite movies of all time that people maybe not have seen, it's the movie Heavyweights. Has anybody here seen the movie Heavyweights? If you haven't, again, there's so many great actors in it. Like young actors, like there's just so many people. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. The Happy Gilmore, though, one is, yes, it's my fingers are going to hurt. I think I just killed the Mista lady. Has anybody here, though, seen Heavyweights? Javier Gomez says, I freaking love that movie. Tony Perkins from Nate Dogg. Dude, this was like me and a few of my buddies in college. We wanted to be the Perkins people, basically. And we wanted to be able to be the Perkins system for Halloween. We just couldn't get enough people to be able to do it. We were also on a college budget, right? Like, I think it's hilarious now. I was literally, I was on Amazon yesterday and I was looking for a jacket for Chuck and how easy it is for me to spend $40 on my dog Chuck, which again, that's not even a lot of money, I think, for a dog jacket. It's a good dog jacket. My wife approved of it. So that's probably the most important thing. But like, it was like 3 seconds. Saw a jacket, love it, ended up buying it, $40, didn't even sweat about it. Bro, when I was in college, we would literally sit there for like 20, 30 minutes and be like, do I want to spend $14 on Keystone Ice? Or do I want to spend, I don't know, $21 on Labatt Blue? Or do I want to spend $16 on a 30 rack of Miller Lite? And you'd sit there for 20, 30 minutes and debate if you wanted to spend an extra $2 or $3. I don't know. It's just how I've always been. Still to this day, if I'm going to buy myself something, I will sit there and I'll nickel dime myself. But if it comes to my dog, I don't know. That's how I am. I feel like most men are probably like that. And I don't think it's a bad quality to have at all. But yeah, his fingers hurt. And now his shoulder hurts. So now you're going to play landscaping duty. Alfredo, would you take Eagles -5.5 or Raiders at plus 21.5? So the last time that I saw the spread, I was actually talking to our Eagles guy here about it, and it was Tuesday morning when him and I talked. I was like, how do you feel? And he said he was a 6 out of 10 confidence level that the Eagles were going to beat the Raiders. And I don't blame him. That Monday Night Football game for Philadelphia, it was an ugly game, right? I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. It was a very, very ugly game. So I would take Philadelphia -5.5, and I'm going to take the -5.5 there because of the weather conditions. The last time that I checked, it's expected to be 20 to 30 degrees. I know Kenny Pickett played at Pittsburgh, But small hands quarterback in the cold, Derek Carr style. It's just the recipe's not the best for success. The Raiders' offensive line has played better, but the struggles of Philadelphia, I think, really are more on Jalen Hurts. And I don't know if Lane Johnson is going to play. If Lane Johnson is playing, my answer is absolutely, positively, no doubt about it. But I do think with the weather conditions and just the Eagles' offensive line up against our Raiders' defensive line, a defensive line that the game's going to be wet, slippery, missed tackles are going to happen, and it's a game that, like, they got to get that get-right game. Because right now what's happening in the conversations around Philly is, the Eagles, they blew that 21-0 lead against the Dallas Cowboys. Them blowing that lead, it's not apples to apples, but it's the comparison that I'm going to give. You remember last year when Gardner Minshew threw that pick six to Pat Surtain? The Raiders were, 2-2 on the season. They were up 10-0 over Denver. And I really feel like since that pick six against Pat Surtain, like that play, I just felt like was like the biggest reason why the Raiders just failed. And they just fell down. They crumbled, and it was just all downhill after that. It was almost like that play sucked all the wind out of the Raiders. The Eagles got to get their mojo back, and I don't believe it's all that difficult to get the mojo back against the Raiders because they're going to be able to run it with Jalen Hurts. They're going to be able to run it with Saquon Barkley, and if they do that for 30, 35, 40 times, I think even if the Raiders know it's coming, are they going to be able to stop it? I just have a hard time believing that they're going to be able to stop it. What scares me is turnovers. Like turnovers, if Philly turns the ball over 2 to 3 times in this game, the Raiders are going to have a chance because the offensive line's played better, because Kenny Pickett gives the Raiders a better chance to start over Geno Smith. It does. But as Nicholas said, bet the under. Oh, my God, hammer the under. I don't know what the under is. I have no idea. If I had to guess, it's probably, if I honestly had to guess what the under in that game is going to be, I'd say it's going to be around 37, 38. That's my guess. That's my guess. But I do not see a world where Philadelphia beats the Raiders by 21. Their offense is just not good enough right now. It's not. Their offense is just not good enough. Let's go to KR. What up, Nam? Crochel, hopefully I pronounced that right. Was at work watching your earlier video when shit play came up. Started real one for life, was told to keep it down. It's true. Screw the SI beat reporters. Again, man, I just it's so difficult to be a beat reporter for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I mean that because, I've also tried to be able to develop relationships with players. I've also tried to develop relationships with agents. I've also tried to develop relationships with coaches, people in that front office. And when there is a constant turnover, you kind of feel like you got to start over again. And I don't like this rivalry between beat reporters, beat writers, and Raiders content creators, but I want to give a special shout out to my guy, Joe Morley. Maybe you guys follow him on Instagram. To me, my biggest goal that I had this year, and I said it before, and it's kind of why certain other things happen that kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I joined, shout out to Josh. Josh, you guys know him as GOAT. He's got the best mustache in the game. Josh and I 2 years ago did not get along. And, Josh used to make content all the time, ripping on me. And I don't blame him because it got him a lot of eyeballs and it got him a lot of views. And Josh, I hope what I'm about to say here doesn't get you mad, but, Josh and I would go back and forth in the DMs. He'd call me a Jets fan. And, again, it gets a rise out of me because it fucking pisses me off because I know people say it. And again, like to me, people that say it never had to work for a day in their life. I had to work for the Jets, pay my way through college. It's just the truth, right? But to me, if I can mend my relationship with Josh and if I can mend my relationship with the GOAT, and I like to think now that we're pretty good, right? Like we talk to each other. I support him. I like to believe he supports me. And, there's a lot of content creators out there that I support. I support Mo. I support Marcus, Severe. I support, Rundown, Pharaoh. Like I feel like I've done a really good job, in the years past. Like Wasted and I used to be really good. Unfortunately, Wasted and I don't communicate anymore because, Wasted's got his allegiance to his own guys, and I don't blame him for doing that. But I really honestly hate the pettiness and the high school politics that come with it. And, to you, Joe, I heard on a show the other day, somebody ripping apart the guy that dressed up as Santa, and then one of the guys who covers the Raiders was like, that he doesn't like content creators because we just make content reacting to something else that happens. I mean, I could say the exact same thing that a Raiders beat reporter reacts to something that a player, has to say. I don't know. I don't know where this whole thing started. I do think it's jealousy. I do think guys like Hondo, I do think guys like Vinny, I do think guys that, again, it's not easy to do their job. But also, I think that those guys, get jealous that people care more about our opinion. And I know why I don't get invited on the Raiders YouTube channel. I know why JT the Brick's never going to give me an opportunity, though he said he would. And, I volunteered to help out the Raiders YouTube channel because I know this for a fact. If the Raiders were to hire me on their YouTube channel, whoever runs the Raiders YouTube channel, look at your analytics and times them all by 100 because I actually know what I'm doing on YouTube, right? And again, you wouldn't hire me to fix your car. If you did, you're an idiot, but you would hire me to be able to manage media and manage your YouTube channel. And I would get a lot more eyes. I would get a lot more support. Honestly, I think Raider fans would support the team more if I was running the show over there. And I don't think that that's a cocky thing to say. I think it's just let's just keep it a buck. It's just the truth, right? I'll leave it like this. I really hope that we can figure out a way where beat reporters and content creators can get along. But at the same time, if people are going to take shots at me below the belt, I'm not afraid to sit up here and try to fire them right back. So to Joe, keep doing your thing, man. I think you're doing a great job because if people are watching you and if you're putting a smile on somebody's face and if you're waking up 4 hours to be able to drive as far as you got to do to go to a Raiders game and pay your hard-earned money, if you want to dress up as Santa Claus, if you want to dress up as freaking, I don't even know, anything you want to dress up as, to me, I look at that as a Raider fan going, that guy's having a fun time at a Raiders game. And if you're in the year of 2025 in December having a good time at a Raiders game, good for you. That's what Raiders people should care about. Shouldn't give a shit about if I get more views than you. And I know I get more views than any person that covers this team. But I've also worked my freaking ass off to be able to do it. So if Pete reporters want to keep coming after us, content creators, how about this? I consider myself an entrepreneur. I consider myself a Raiders YouTuber. And if that bothers you, then step your game up. Right? And it's just that. Because I'll tell you this, I've been trying to step my game up for a long, long time. So Joe, to all the content creators out there, keep doing your thing. Samoa Raider, keep doing your thing. Sanjeet, keep doing your thing. To all the people that support me in this content world, keep freaking doing your thing. Even if we don't see eye to eye. One guy I'll give an example of is a guy like Murph, Raider Fan Radio. Murph and I have probably not had the best relationship through the years, and I'm sad to say it, but Murph would probably agree with that statement. I have a lot of respect for what Murph does, though, because he shows up and he gives his honest opinion, and he doesn't give a shit whether you're going to like it, whether you're not going to like it. It's his God-honest opinion, and that's why Raiders fans watch our stuff, because we're not going to feed you BS. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that comes out of that building right now it's BS. It's fabricated. You know it, and I know it. And when I see people like SI putting out content the way that they are, they can't get mad at me. They can't get mad at Joe. They can't get mad at these other guys. They should get mad at themselves, because if you're putting your name on something, you're putting your name on something. It's like putting your name on a test and getting pissed off that you got an F for it. Well, you should have put in more time and energy to get better grades. Let's keep it moving here. What up, Josh? Mitch, do you really think we will lose out? I am actually a lot less confident than I am now. If I am way, way less confident that we're going to lose out, because Kenny Pickett, Aidan O'Connell give us a better shot to win. Philadelphia scares the hell out of me. I don't know what that Giants game scares me. To me, the Kansas City Chiefs, I still think that they're going to try to win every single game, even if they're out of the playoffs, because it looks like it's the end for Travis Kelce. And I just have a hard time believing that that's going to be an organization that doesn't try to win the final game of Travis Kelce's career. And I got a good source that knows somebody very important. I'll just leave it like that in Travis Kelce's life. And if she's probably going to be at that game week 18, So like the games that scare me are Philadelphia, and the games that scare me are the final game against Kansas City. They scare me. I would have said I was a 10 out of 10 confident that the Raiders were going to lose out. I would say now I am a 7 out of 10 confident that the Raiders are going to lose out. And that's just because, again, we're going to try something different this week. And our offensive line has been playing better, and we are getting healthier. Let's go to the Yeet Master. I think Darian meant A.J. Brown, not A.J. Green. Oh, I mean, it's the same thing then. It's for the Las Vegas Raiders. It doesn't make, A.J. Brown just won a Super Bowl last season on a team that is 8-5, number one in their division, and he wants the football more, and he's complaining about it. Imagine what he'd be doing here. It's, to me, if you're the Raiders and if you want to spend $30 million on a player this offseason, he better put his hand in the dirt. That's all I'm going to say. He better put his hand in the dirt, whether it's a defensive tackle, whether it's an offensive lineman. With $115 million in salary cap space, if you're going to spend $30 million on a player, if his hand's not in the dirt, it's a bad investment. If he's not playing in the trenches, it's a bad investment. Unless that $30 million goes to a Matthew Stafford or a quarterback that all of us are sitting here going, that guy gives us a chance to win. Got to be in the dirt, though. And I think it's got to be in the dirt. Let's go to Dan. The last thing, also, Dan, I don't want to give away too much insider information here at Chat Sports, but I'm guessing you're an Oregon fan. And we are about to launch an Oregon channel here at Chat Sports. And we're going to be getting really close to launching it here in the next few days. So be on the lookout for that if there are any Oregon fans out there. Oregon, big game against JMU. I think they're going to absolutely roll the Dukes. And I think JMU is going to be dropping a dookie. But you know what? If you're an Oregon fan and you want literally videos, you're not going to get videos every single day. But it's a process. And, anybody that's maybe followed our guy Joey Tennessee, we got an Alabama channel, we got an Ohio State channel. The more and more love you show them, the more content that you're going to get. So if anybody's an Oregon fan, be on the lookout. We will be launching an Oregon channel here very soon. The last thing the Raiders need to worry about in the draft is a quarterback. We need to do whatever it takes to build a top 3 offensive line. We need to do everything in our power to build a top offensive line. Yes, you're right. But to say that we shouldn't worry about a quarterback, again, I don't know how you say you can't worry about a quarterback when our quarterback situation is what it is. Like somebody asked me the other day, he's an OG, Mitch, could you do a video on ranking all the quarterbacks since Derek Carr? Would that be a video you guys would want to see? Y for yes, N for no, right? But to me, if you shouldn't be hired as a head coach if Clint Kubiak walks into that room and he goes, I'm not going to worry about the next quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't want you to be my next head coach. The number one focus for the Raiders next offseason from a coaching standpoint is finding your franchise quarterback. You got to find a QB. I'm not saying that building your offensive line isn't important, but I'm also saying that you can build an offensive line and you can go draft a quarterback. Again, this is me predicating that on you having the number 1 overall pick. If we don't have the number 1 overall pick, then my answer might really change on this question. But in my mind, number 1 pick, you got to be focused on a quarterback, and you have enough money in salary cap space, and you have enough players already on your roster where you can figure out your offensive line. I actually think the idea of building the Raiders offensive line in the draft this next year is actually a dumb idea. And I say that because I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk the offensive line. And I think there's a lot of really, to me, again, I'm going to spend an absolute F ton of money on my offensive line and free agency. Get it out of the way. Make sure your offensive line is a top 10 offensive line in your mind going into the NFL draft. You go for your quarterback. Maybe you want to trade back to number 2, but to me, I'm taking Mendoza or I'm taking Dante Moore. And then when you look at a lot of the other talent in this year's draft, I'm going to go edge or defensive tackle probably in round 2, round 3. I'll go, if there's a better DT in round 2, I'll go DT. If there's a better edge, I'll go edge. But to me, my first priorities are building the offensive line in free agency, taking a quarterback in round 1, and then going defensive tackle, defensive end, second and third round. I think that is a recipe for success for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2026. We have the money. We have the draft picks to be able to do it. The only excuse is not putting a proper plan in place. That's how I feel. But I appreciate this, and I really do hope that you check out our Oregon channel. Let's go to Rich. Not to be dark. Hope 98 gets ownership when Max has got better chance of getting ownership from if Mark's alive than if he passes. I think the best news is Mark doesn't have any kids. So that means whenever Mark decides to hang it up, somebody else is going to take over this organization, which is a good thing. No doubt about it. I've heard from some interesting sources that the Raiders next, we'll call them ownership group. It's going to be led by Tom Brady. And again, I've talked to a few of the other owners. I have not personally talked to the other owners. I know somebody that talks to Raiders owners on a weekly basis, and they're going to do something very similar to like what the Dodgers did, where they're just going to get a bunch of big names, a guy like Magic Johnson. They're going to get a bunch of money together, and there's going to be an NBA team in Las Vegas soon. Could LeBron James be part ownership group of that? There's the Oakland A's. They're coming here. Like to me, I could see the Raiders trying to do some sort of ownership group between a LeBron James, a Tom Brady, maybe Magic gets involved. It's going to be an ownership group like that. And it's going to be a lot of money flowing around because people want money in on Vegas. It sucks a little bit because I still think that means our ticket prices are going to go up. And I don't ever see us having that Oakland feel to a game ever again. But in terms of Max Crosby getting ownership is way more likely if Mark Davis is alive than if he's not. But again, there will already be something put in place. If Max finishes his career with the Las Vegas Raiders, I promise you he's going to have ownership. I don't think it's going to be Tom Brady level of ownership. Brady's around like 5%, a little bit more than that. It would probably be very similar to like a guy like Richard Seymour, somewhere like Max gets like 1%, maybe 2%, which is a lot of money. It's you get 1% to 2% of potentially $10 billion. I don't know what that math is. Somebody help me out. Sounds like a pretty good chunk of change there. Let's go to, sorry, mistype, shit plan. So true every year. You're all good, bro. Also, that's a hell of a cowboy hat. If there's one thing that Alex wishes that I would wear more of, it's Cowboys hats. Also, if I made a Raiders Report beanie, would you guys want them? Also, we hired a new guy here at Chat Sports, and he's doing a lot of designing for us. I think I'm about to drop a new Raiders Report logo. I love the Just Win Baby, but the Just Win Baby to me is more like for the show. Again, I love the baby. The person who made the Just Win Baby logo is a longtime watcher of this program, and I will always love the Just Win Baby, just like I'll always love, the Chucky head. But I want like a logo that's got more of a cool factor to it, I guess maybe is a way to say it. Something where somebody like wears that might not just be a Raiders Report fan. And we got some stuff cooking in the kitchen right now. So I'll tell you this right now. If you're a Raiders Report fan, we're going to be dropping some really cool merch here very soon. Let's go to drama. Mitch, I came here for the real, raw emotions. It's I always like to think that I'm real and I'm raw and I'm, emotional. There are at times where I really want to be able to tone it back because I don't want to just be the guy that's kicking and screaming the entire time. Because if you do something too much, how real is it actually? But I don't know when I'm going to feel the way that I do, right? If somebody sends in a message here and it gets me feeling a type of way, you're damn right I'm going to go off. But, I think like that's why people, again, like the Raiders Report. I think it's why people gravitate to me as a host. But, I was doing I was on an IG call on Monday and, Navman started playing an old Raiders Report show for me. I was like, I think it might've been like one of the very first shows I ever did. And to see how different I was then to now, it's practice. It's getting better at anything you do. But I want people to watch this show because I want people to know that I'm not perfect, that I might say some things from time to time where I'll be like, shit, I didn't mean to say that. But I do this show like you and I are sitting down in a room with all of our bestest buddies. I think about it almost as like when I'm at a friend's bachelor party. If my friends come over to watch a college football game, we're all sitting there, and once in a while you say something, you're like, ah, shit, man. I hope nobody cancels me for that. And I don't like cancel culture. There are certain things that needed to be canceled, no doubt about it, when some people say dumb shit. But I am always going to be 100% me, man, and that's the God honest truth. And if I'm not bringing in enough right now, give me a reason. No, I don't know what just happened. I think something must have just happened here. Wow. Breaking news in college football, which this is not good for anybody that wants the Raiders to hire Jesse Minter. I put this out on a video. Well, I said it yesterday in our live, and you guys are going to see the video tomorrow, my top Raiders head coach candidates. But Michigan is firing head coach Sherrone Moore, which that means Jesse Minter will be their top candidate. I've been saying it for a few days. I said it on a show that I did a few weeks ago that the number one thing that we've been hearing here at Chat Sports, again, we got a lot of ties to Michigan. My boss covers Michigan, and he knows a lot of people in that organization. I guess not organization in that school, but Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for the Chargers. We were told that that's their top candidate, former DC, has been a Jim Harbaugh guy. I would say now for anybody that wanted Jesse Minter to be the next Raiders head coach, I don't think we're going to get him. I almost think you could take him off the list because he's going to pick Michigan over the Raiders. And that's just because Michigan's going to be able to offer him a little bit more. That sucks, man. Son of a gun. Because that's been the number one name that I've been hearing, but also the source that I talked to said if Michigan ends up firing Moore, Michigan's going to go after Minter and they're going to get him over us. And that's just, it's like us trying to battle New England for Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel wanted that job more than our job. So that, I'm not going to lie, that kind of sucks. Dang it. I want a Minter. Yeah, Minter was one of my top candidates, but you guys, you'll hear me say some things tomorrow on the show, the video that I'll drop early in the morning. Just kind of remember that I filmed it on Tuesday. Please. Let's go to Jason. Jason, before I read this, I want to make this statement clear. I appreciate how much you've been watching the show. I appreciate all the comments, questions, the debates that you've been sparking up in our, chat. I am also, though, every time I see your name pop up, I'm worried what type of outlandish stuff you're going to say. But I do appreciate you're somebody that you're not going to be swayed by public opinion. You're always going to give your opinion. And I think people like that should be appreciated. So now I'm going to look at the super chat. McCarthy for coach is the pick. Which QB do you think would fit best in his system, Mendoza or Moore? I apologize for everything I just said. I think it was a very good question. But every time I feel like the last few questions you've asked me, I was like, man, I don't know, Jason. I actually like the idea of Mike McCarthy as a head coach. And the reason why that I say that is it's very similar to the why I said I wanted the Raiders to hire Mike Vrabel last season, because there's not 32 people on the planet that are a better NFL head coach than Mike Vrabel, Mike Tomlin, or Mike McCarthy. And I will stand by that. The bigger question here, though, is not so much Mike McCarthy, Mendoza, or Moore. I do think McCarthy would end up being the person that would end up calling the plays. But to me, if you're an offensive-minded head coach and if you're an offensive coordinator, the offense that you would instill in Mendoza and Moore, I do think is pretty similar, because Mendoza, in my personal opinion, has a higher ceiling. Moore has a safer floor, but both players are very similar in their own regard of true passer, very intelligent quarterback, pocket awareness, ability to, throw a lot of different balls across, many different sides of the field, left, right, down the middle, 40 yards, 30 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards. They're very accurate passers, really solid ability to be able to manipulate a pocket. I don't think either guy is super athletic, but having the ability to run is a very crucial part of this. To me, I do see Mendoza as being better under center, pro-style quarterback. I think Moore is actually probably a better thrower of the football, but both guys have it up here. To me, though, I think both offenses would be pretty similar. The other reason, though, that I'm just going to go with Mendoza. It's because, to me, Mendoza makes all 21 guys around him better. Not that Moore doesn't. Both players are very, very locked in with the mental side of the game. Which quarterback do I think would fit best in his system? I think both quarterbacks are equally as good. Because I also will say that one of the things that Mike McCarthy has done is he's been able to do really well with quarterbacks, and he's been able to make sure that he's putting his QBs in the best situation possible to succeed. And he did it with Dak. He did it with Rodgers. He's done it his whole career. Sure, he's had some ups and downs, but a lot of coaches have. I also look at Mike McCarthy and what he was able to do in Dallas and dealing with an owner like Jerry Jones. Let's be honest, that's got to be a difficult thing to be able to deal with, especially when you feel like your owner is handicapping you in a little bit. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'd also be comfortable with Mike. He's also dealt with an owner that I think other people would say is difficult to work with. And Mark Davis, very nice person, very nice guy. Anybody would say that about Mark. But you can't say that he's done a very good job being the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Money-wise, he's done the best job ever. Winning and putting a good product out on the field and getting your fan base to rally behind you, he's done a disaster. And I'll keep saying it, Mark. I think I would be somebody that you should hire, because if I was at tailgates, if I was at every Raiders game, and if I was able to do some sort of live watch party from Allegiant Stadium, maybe it's out at the tailgate outside of Allegiant Stadium, I honestly think more fans would come. I'm not saying to watch me, but I think more fans would come and support you for rallying behind people that show commitment to excellence on a daily basis instead of showing love to, again, man, the amount of times I've seen beat reporters over the last just week, 2 weeks, especially, again, JT, and I hate to say you by name, but I feel like every tweet I see from JT is him insulting a Raiders fan. And I know it's not easy when you got people coming at you all the time. I got people coming at me all the time, and not everybody's going to agree with you, but you're frustrated. I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated in the season. If there's one thing I've really tried to do, it's not to attack people for being frustrated, because people are just coming at you, JT, I think, because they're frustrated in the Raiders, and they're frustrated that you have an unbelievable job at, your fingertips. And, it's when people take advantage of that opportunity, it's a jealousy thing. I'm jealous that I'm not on the Raiders YouTube channel. I'm jealous that I'm not in the Raiders building every day. I'm jealous that I don't have the access that you have. I'm not afraid to admit it. Just like, I don't think it's you. We're not going to get into it. Let's go to the next one. If you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button. Would greatly, greatly appreciate it if you did. And I say that because if you're looking for Raiders news, I got you covered. If you're looking for a Raiders community, we got you covered. If you are looking for the #1 Raiders show in the world, I can't even whistle, so I don't even know how I just whistled there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on those notifications. You're not always going to agree with me, but there is a reason why we've been the #1 watch Raiders show in the world for the past 7 to 8 years. There's a reason. And if you don't like the show, unsubscribe after a week. If you don't learn anything, unsubscribe after a week. Costs you absolutely nothing. Draft Mendoza, then draft his wide receiver, Indiana, Omar Cooper, in the 3rd round. I like Surratt. I've watched Surratt play. He's a good player, and I definitely think adding him would be solid. I guess my only problem with this idea is how I think I would build the Raiders, okay? In my mind, how I would build the Raiders is I'm going to spend an absolute crap ton of money on that offensive line, offense. You're saying, I believe Surratt's probably going to go in the 2nd round. That means your first 2 picks are then offensive. To me, you got to be able to wiggle and bend a little bit. And just because I'm just so big on being able to build in the trenches, now maybe the Raiders go out and they sign an edge. Maybe they go out and they sign a defensive tackle. I don't know exactly who it's going to be. But I would personally, again, just me, if I'm going to take a quarterback and if I'm going to spend a lot of money on the offensive side of the football and free agency in the trenches, well, then what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to invest more of my high draft capital on the defensive side of the football. So I'm not saying that Surratt's not a good player, and I'm not saying that, adding a player like that's not a smart decision to do. but I do think Surratt and what he brings to the table, again, not apples to apples as Jack Besh, but I think it's kind of similar. And to me, you roll an offense out there next season. Mayer, I believe in. Brock Bowers, I believe in. Trey Tucker, I believe in. Jack Besh, I believe in. Those are 4 options on offense that I believe that our quarterback could get the ball into their hands and some stuff's going to happen. Do I still want to add another wide receiver? Yes, I do. I absolutely would love to add another wide receiver. But to me, I think adding a defensive tackle, adding an edge in the draft in the 2nd and 3rd round is a bigger priority over adding a wide receiver. Because I also will say, I want to be able to have somebody that is best suited to help make sure Ashton Jeanty is a good pick. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I want to be very clear on that. But that's just my personal opinion. It's just not what I would do. But the idea of adding his go-to guy, I hear you. It's the thought process is there, and I appreciate the thought process. Hey, Mitch, why are you on? I am on because the Raiders announced, or Ian Rapoport had some news that Geno Smith is unlikely to play Week 15 against the Philadelphia Eagles. He's dealing with a shoulder injury, and it's been down there on our ticker. Kenny Pickett or Aidan O'Connell is going to start. Based on the reports, it does look like Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy that ends up getting the starting nod here for the Silver and Black up against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's why I decided to go live. That was the breaking news. The other news that ended up happening today that I think is worth noting is Max Crosby still dealing with that knee injury. Caleb Rogers is going to start at right guard. Dante Thornton Jr., past concussion protocol. He's expected to be out there. Colton Miller practiced today, so it looks like he's going to be able to play. And we still don't know the severity of the Geno Smith shoulder injury. I'm going to roll my eyes to it, and I only say that because Geno Smith injured his shoulder on Sunday. Are you telling me on Wednesday we still don't know what the shoulder injury is? And you can say he's day-to-day. I also think saying he's day-to-day and not providing an injury update on it of, is it an AC sprain? Is it whatever it is? I'm not a doctor, so I can't even think of like what the shoulder injury would be. But to automatically be like, he's unlikely to play, he's day-to-day, and give absolutely positively no status of what the injury is. Again, I think it's like it's when they said JPJ wasn't smart enough or didn't have it up here enough to be able to go out there and practice. I don't have that ability to be able to prove that, but my eyes tell me it's a lie. I saw the other day, people were like, well, where are you getting the information that Caleb Rogers wasn't prepared or wasn't good enough to be able to start in a game? From our own head coach, right? Actions sometimes speak louder than words. And it was reported that Caleb Rogers apparently had such a bad day at practice that he was unable to. It was such a bad day at practice that Caleb can't start anymore after telling people he was going to start. I think those stories come out to cover their ass, right? And stories like the Chip Kelly story, there's just certain stories that pop up and it's like, oh, well, that's interesting timing. So I'm on today because I was told last week that Geno Smith could potentially fake an injury because he's too tired in front of playing in front of hostile fans and he doesn't want to be a part of this organization anymore. I see Geno Smith leave with a hand injury. I see Geno Smith leave with a shoulder injury, and maybe it's a hell of a coincidence. And honestly, I hope that it is a hell of a coincidence because quitting on your team when somebody gives you $58.5 million and quitting on your team faking an injury when you know that you can get an extra $8 million, it wouldn't shock me if Geno did it because it's just Geno hates this organization. He hates Raiders fans, and he doesn't want to be a part of it. So for him, he might be looking at it as, how can I get as much money as humanly possible? Again, I don't blame him because, again, that's the contract that he was given. But it would be really unfortunate. It's just that's why I don't like certain guaranteed contracts. I remember when I told a former Raider player that the NFL should do away with guaranteed contracts. He really laughed at me, and I don't blame any NFL player for laughing at me for it. It's frustrating when a guy can do absolutely, he can just fail at his job, give up on his team, potentially fake an injury, and, still get paid. Like, to me, I look at it as almost if I were to do this show, again, I've been live for an hour, 34 minutes. Imagine if all I did today when I went live is be like, Geno Smith will miss this week's game against the Eagles, Kenny Pickett and Aidan O'Connell could potentially play. My name is Mitchell Renz. You're watching the Raiders Report, and I'll see you later. And still get paid the exact same amount as whether I'm live for an hour and 34 minutes. It's just, I get it. It's not the same, but I also know a lot of people that are at home right now got to work their freaking tails off because it's real life. You know, if you don't do your job well, you're not going to you don't get paid. Whole nother conversation. But I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way. So that's why I'm on. I want to be able to give people my 2 cents on Geno Smith being out. Still got a lot of super chats to be able to get to here on the Raiders Report. Still have 900 people in the building. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like button. Other NFL news, or not NFL news, but college football news that ended up going down. The Michigan Wolverines, they just fired their head coach, Sean Moore. And I was told by a source that the Raiders are looking at Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who used to be the DC with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, 2022, 2023, ended up winning the national championship. The reason why that's relevant is because Minter has been a name that I've heard in circles. And I was also told that if Michigan ended up firing their head coach, Minter would be their top candidate, and Minter would be more interested in taking that job than the Raiders job. So Minter was a candidate that I wanted. Minter's going to be on a video that I drop tomorrow, my top Raiders head coach candidates. But I'll be real. I don't think that there's any shot in hell we're going to get him now. And I would imagine that just like last year with the whole Mike Vrabel conversation, Vrabel picked New England over the Raiders because New England meant more to him. Minter's going to take the job in Michigan because Michigan means more to him than the Raiders. And maybe Tom Brady and John Spytek want Minter to take that job because he's a good head coach and he will do a good job. All right, let's go to Stabler. Sign Brady for 1 year, allow Mendoza to learn under him. No. Mendoza can already learn from Tom Brady and him being a member of the Raiders. Also, Tom Brady being an owner, he's not allowed to play. So I don't see why you would do it. Again, Brady's the greatest of all time. You can't tell me otherwise, but one, it can't happen. Two, I don't want it to happen. And I'm not saying Aidan O'Connell is Tom Brady by any stretch of the imagination, but Aidan O'Connell is a very good quarterback that if I was Fernando Mendoza, like I would want to learn from Aidan because again, it's not so much from the physical gift standpoint. It's the mental preparation. It's the professionalism that he shows, and Aidan O'Connell is a professional, and it's why he's going to have a job in the NFL for a very, very long time. And I think Mendoza and AOC do think very similarly. I think the way that they process the game is very similar. It's just Aidan doesn't have the God-given ability that some of these other quarterbacks have. What up, Emmanuel? I missed the wasted beef. I don't have any wasted beef. Wasted's my guy. I think it's. I don't want to get into, again, the politic, and I don't like doing the politicking, but I feel like through the 7-8 years that I've done this show, I've shown nothing but love and support to a lot of people. There's one person who I used to be friends with, and again, I don't know. When you block another man 3 different times, it's kind of weird to me. And my biggest goal this offseason was I wanted to be able to mend all relationships with content creators. I joined a certain content creator show that rubbed somebody the wrong way. And then that person, ended up blackballing me is probably the way to say it, blocking me. And I don't have any problem with them doing it. Again, to me, it's more unfortunate because I felt like I lost a friend. I felt like I lost somebody that I was close to, somebody that, I got to meet their family. I got to be a part of certain things with them. So for me, it was like, damn, like, I felt like it was all fake, and that was a hard pill to swallow, but I got no problem with Wasted. I like Wasted. Wasted and I are good. I think that we're good. It's just I know that we won't do content together because he makes content with somebody else, but also the person that he makes content with, is close to Hondo, is close to some of these other guys, and those guys don't like me, and I know that they don't like me, and that's fine. To me, I do this show for Raider Nation. I do this show to try to unite the nation. And there's just unfortunately people that, again, like the politicking, like to get into it. And I don't have time for it. And I don't want to have time for it because, again, when you meet somebody's family, when you meet somebody and like you feel like you're really close to them. Like this person, my wife, swear to God, on my grandfather's grave, was like, oh, we should invite them to our wedding. And I was like, we can't do it anymore. Like that. When you feel like you lose somebody like that, that's a hard pill to swallow. So I would love to be able to do more stuff like that. And one of the reasons why I don't do the group mock drafts anymore is because, unfortunately, through the years that I've done this show, I feel like this one person in particular took advantage of me. And, again, like if I hear somebody wants to try to make Raiders content, like I want to be able to help people make Raiders content. And I'm not saying this person makes content because of me. And I'm not saying that their success is because of me. But at the same time, there's no way that person could tell me that I didn't help them get it started and I didn't show a little bit of a path. Like they still put in the time, they still put in the work. But to me, I felt more like, damn, man, I thought we were friends. And if me joining another Raiders content creator show rubs you the wrong way enough where you block me for the third time on all social media and you block me, that tells me that you were never friends with me to begin with. And you really only used me to give yourself a name. And it was frustrating, and that's really how it is. And I do, like, it hurt me. And I think I reached out to a lot of people about it. I reached out to a lot of content creators about it. Because, again, to me, there's enough to go around. We make very, very different content. You got guys that do tape. You got guys that give their opinion, guys that cover the news, guys that make stuff on Instagram, Twitter. There's so much to talk about that there's enough to go around where, again, I'm not going to try to get rid of you. Now, again, like to me, if you treat me a type of way, I'm going to respond. I'm not going to back down. But that one sucked, and Wasted was a guy who I got the utmost respect for Wasted. Again, Wasted, if you see this, you and I have talked recently, and I would love to be able to do more things with other Raiders content creators. It's not that I hope this isn't looked at again. I just don't look at people as competition. And it's because I don't really think that there is competition for me, because I really believe if I do what I'm supposed to do, if I show up and I give 110% every day, and if I try to put the best product possible out there for Raider Nation, with all due respect, I don't think anybody's going to be able to hang with me. But I also want other Raiders content creators to feel the exact same way, right? Like I bet you Simone Raider feels like he's the best guy on Instagram. And I kind of agree with that. I think Sanjeet's the best in terms of being able to break down tape, and he should feel that way. It's just like, there's a lot of really, really good content creators out there. And for me, my number one objective this year was to get Raider Nation together, to get the content creators together, to get everybody together. And I thought if I was able to do it with Josh the GOAT, then why the hell couldn't I do it with anybody else? It's just unfortunately because I made content with him, this person ended up blocking me, and now other people won't associate themselves with me because they don't want to burn the bridge with him. And again, I don't blame those people because, he helps them also make content. Like it was sad to me. It was sad to me. That's how I'll leave it. Let's go to the next one here from Dirty Curdy. I only watch Mitch and Joe and Goat and Simone. Again, man, like I appreciate when people show support to me. I appreciate when people show support to other people. And I've done this for so long that, again, man, like if somebody wants me to join a show, hit me up on IG, hit me up on Twitter. I have done, I don't know, if I had to guess, 50 different styles of shows with other people that invite me. It's more difficult for me to get people on my program only because, again, I don't want to say there's a level of a standard here, but I do have a certain standard where I want to get people here on the Raiders Report. But, man, I've had people on multiple times. But the other reason why I'm scared to put other people on this program is because I felt like I did it with a certain person. I gave them an opportunity and, they kind of backhanded me. And I just don't know if I'll do it again. So it's just the truth. But if anybody ever wants me on a show, don't ever be afraid to hit me up. I've joined a bunch of shows, and, there's a lot of shows that I want to be able to do in the off season. It's a lot easier for me to be able to do them in the off season. Will Brendan Rice play this year? Maybe, maybe not. And I don't mean this to be rude to be Brendan Rice. Quite frankly, I don't really care. Like, I don't look at Brendan Rice as being a player that's got long-term value on an NFL roster. I don't really look at Brendan Rice as being a player that's got long-term value on the Raiders. If I'm the Raiders, I am trying to get my young players involved that I believe have some long-term longevity. It's a weird way to say it, but I want to see Trey Tucker get more involved. Jack Bech get more involved. I know Dante Thornton Jr. has really struggled, but that's somebody that I want to see, get more opportunities. And I do. I want to see Dante Thornton get more opportunities. So when you play a player like Brendan Rice, I don't want it to be at fault. I don't want them to take Jack Bech off the field. I don't want them to take Trey Tucker off the field. I don't want them to take, Dante off the field for Brendan Rice. It's not really smart to me. Hell, to me, the reps that Brendan Rice would honestly take away from is Shedric Jackson. I don't want Shedric Jackson to lose reps to Brendan Rice because I actually think Shedric Jackson has shown in preseason. He showed this past week, and against one catch, 25 yards and a touchdown, but it was a good route. It was a very tight thrown ball by Kenny Pickett, and he came down with the play. We got to be able to reward players for making good plays, and I believe Shedric Jackson has a better chance of being a Raider for longer than somebody along the lines of Brendan Rice. And because of that, I don't know if he's going to play, and it's a mean thing to say, but I don't care if he plays or not. And that's just my God honest opinion. Let's go to Maximus. Gino eats unwashed A55. I'm an idiot. Coming from a person that's got profile picture as a feet, I'm an idiot. Honestly, the first thing I thought of was did A1 steak sauce make a new sauce that I don't know about or some bullshit like that? I'm an idiot. You guys just throw some tomatoes at me, drop some L's down below. Clearly, I never had a calculator. Y'all knew I was bad at math, but clearly I never had a calculator. The Raiders brass could F up a wet dream like Gino, lose the remaining games. Mess up a wet dream. This is a true story. I'm not saying I had a wet dream recently, but I did have a dream recently where I miss being able to play college baseball. I miss being able to get ready, just the mental side of it. I was our Saturday starter, so I was a relief pitcher my freshman year. They tried to put me at closer. My arm couldn't do it. My body couldn't hold up to it. And then my sophomore year, I was I'd say number 2, number 3 guy. By the end of the season, I was our ace, and I'm very proud to say, my sophomore, junior, senior year, I was the ace of our pitching staff, so I always knew, when I was going to throw, and I always had the first game on Saturday, and, basically my job was to throw all 7 innings. We didn't have the deepest pitching rotation in college. We were a much better hitting team and much better our defense, I hate to admit it, was a really bad defensive team. It's the truth, but we, as a batting, I remember my senior year, our team hit, I think we batted 320 and we were barely over 500. It's because our pitching staff wasn't the best. To me, if I could have been our number 2 on a college team, we would have been a really, really good team. But I always started on Saturday, and there was a dream that I had recently where I was literally getting ready to go pitch. And my song that I used to walk out to, it's my favorite song. It just means a lot to me. It's Hell and Back by Kid Ink. Not necessarily that I like the beat to the song as much as I do the words. It resonates with me a lot. It's because when I tore my ACL my senior year, I didn't get the opportunity to play baseball my senior year. And it really taught me, just to be mentally tough, and it might not go your way, but, God has a plan for you and everything happens for a reason. And if I would not have gotten hurt, I don't know where I would have played college baseball. And the only school that gave me a shot at the Centenary for giving me an opportunity. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I met all my best friends, 4 groomsmen in my wedding, my best man, the guy who was down in town for Thanksgiving, Joe. I met all those guys, and I would take that friendship over playing college ball any day of the week. But I was getting ready to go out there and pitch, and then all of a sudden, my alarm went off, and I did not get the pitch in that game. So that's my closest memory that I have to a wet dream. So there you go. Uh-oh. Oh, no, never mind. Patrick Mahomes, full participant today in practice. I thought it said he wasn't practicing. Let's go to a born Raider fan. What do you got for me? I doubt Pickett will win a game. This offensive line is awful. See, I think that this is one of the problems that with Geno Smith taking unnecessary sacks, you can't tell me, again, I encourage you to watch the tape, because when I watched the tape, Geno took way too many unnecessary sacks. He looked like a quarterback that was more willing to take a sack than throw an incomplete ball because it would impact his QBR, it impact his completion percentage. But the Raiders' offensive line last week against Denver played well. They did. I actually think it's probably the best game I've seen that Raiders offensive line play since Colton Miller was on the field. And it's still not a great unit, but Caleb Rogers played much better. Alex Kappa played good football at center. Good for Alex Kappa. But I actually think that the Raiders offensive line played much better last week. And if there's still people that are saying Geno Smith is bad because of the offensive line, I just encourage you not to not listen to that person, because they either A, have a bias, B, don't know ball, C, just got their Geno goggles on, or D, is probably Pete Carroll. But I still don't have a lot of confidence in this offensive line, but to say that it's awful, that just tells me you haven't watched the last 2 weeks. And I know you have watched the last 2 weeks. I'm not trying to give you a gut punch. I want Raiders fans, when they watch this show, to come away with this thing. You know what? I learned something. And if all you learned today was that the offensive line has played better over the past 2 weeks with Alex Kappa at center, and has played better over the past 2 weeks with Caleb Rogers at right guard, I just like that. Like, that's something to learn. But to say the offensive line is awful, it's not awful, and they haven't played awful. And that's why I want people to watch this show. I could sit up here and go, I don't like Brendan Carroll and I want him fired, but if Brendan Carroll in this offensive line does a good job, I don't know how much it's Brendan Carroll, as much just you're running out of your guy, so certain guys have to play now. And us fans were like, you should have played Caleb Rogers before. Hell, I think you should play Charles Grant. Should have played JPJ at center. I think what we're seeing is that we were, again, right. And I'm not surprised that we're right, because I'll just keep saying it. We know more than the staff, and it sucks that we know more than our coaching staff, but that's just the world that we live in with the Pete Carroll Raiders. Let's go to Kubiak for coach is the pick. I do have Clint Kubiak ranked very high. I don't want to spoil my video that I did, but if Clint Kubiak does not plan, or if the Raiders front office plan is to not draft Mendoza or more, and their plan is to not take a new quarterback, then I don't think Kubiak is my number one pick. To me, my number one coach, if you told me the Raiders are not going to select the quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft, and maybe their plan is, well, we're not going to take a QB because we're going to trade back. We're going to try to get as many picks as humanly possible, and we're going to build our team that way. It's not what I would do. I would take a quarterback I would take either Mendoza or more, or I would trade back to number 2. I put out my draft plan video today. If you want to go check it out, please go check it out. But to me, if the plan is to trade back and not take a quarterback in round 1, I'm going to go with Shula, the defensive coordinator for the Rams. Father Don Shula, legendary coaching tree, has been working with Sean McVay since 2017. And when you just listen to a lot of people that are in that organization, when you listen to a lot of really smart people around the NFL, Sean McVay 2.0 is getting brought up. And I'd love an opportunity to go get Sean McVay 2.0. Again, people get mad at me when I say this. I would trade Max Crosby for Sean McVay straight up. You can get mad at me for saying it. Max, you know I love you. The Crosby family, you guys know I love Max. Max is my guy. Max is my favorite player of all time. Favorite current Raider of all time, him and Bo Jackson. But coaching is so important. And I just want people to realize that having the number 1 overall pick allows us to get the best head coach possible. And we can keep saying, you can't keep firing guys one and done. You know, you can keep firing guys one and done when they're not the right hires. Just like you can keep on moving from quarterbacks after the year. If they're not the right guy, like imagine wanting to stick with Gardner Minshew. Imagine wanting to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. Imagine wanting to stick with Geno Smith. You could say the exact same thing about a head coach, right? Like if you can just clearly tell that they're doing a really, really bad job, why would you want to stick with them? It's insanity. It's insanity. Let's go to Raider Muerte, sending in the good vibes. Muerte, shout out to you, my brother. Hope you're doing well, man. It's been I don't know, I shouldn't say it's been a minute, but I feel like it's been a minute since I've seen you on the show. And maybe I'm wrong for saying that. And if I am, I apologize. I'll blame it on the fact that it's all these new @ symbols and I don't know everybody's name like I used to. As a delusional Raiders fan, here we go. If Pickett wins out, makes the Texans look pedestrian, and blows out the Chiefs, should we keep Pete Carroll? Should we keep Pete Carroll? The answer to that is no. Again, man, if the Raiders win their final 4 games, I'm still going to sit up here and I'm going to go, we should not keep Pete Carroll, because the The product since February. If I'm going to look at the entire season at the way I'm looking at the season, I would look at it a lot like a football game, where since he's been hired in February, let's say February and to the draft is the first quarter. Pete Carroll absolutely positively failed in the first quarter. Let's say then from May to, I don't know, August is the second quarter. Pete Carroll absolutely failed in the second quarter. Let's now say September to now, third quarter. Pete Carroll has absolutely failed in the third quarter. Now we're in the fourth quarter. We win our final 4 games. I'm not saying that it's not like all right, well, that's good, because I do want my coach and I do want my team playing its best football. I say it all the time when I talk about Gruden. I want them to be doing their best at the end of the season. But also, if you're shit for 3 quarters and you're good for 1 quarter, I don't know if that's a winning recipe. Maybe it's a winning recipe for Denver and Bo Nix, but I don't think it's a winning recipe. And when you were given as much as what you were given this offseason, and when you were as bad as what you were, I just don't know how anybody could sell me, sell Raider Nation, sell themselves on, again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We can't keep hiring these old coaches that clearly have shown you are past their prime and that want to do what they want to be able to do, and that don't build with the players that they have, but instead try to force players into their system. It's insanity to go back with Pete. We had 11 draft picks last season. We were top 2 in salary cap space, and we're absolutely terrible right now. You're going in the next offseason with 10 total draft picks, top 2 in salary cap space, and the potential number 1 overall pick. Would we all say here we need to find a quarterback? My answer to that would be yes. You gave Pete Carroll the opportunity to go get the quarterback that he wanted in a trade, in a contract extension, and he showed you that he failed at finding a quarterback. We need a quarterback. We have draft picks. We have free agency. Why are we going to piss that opportunity away again? I can't wrap my mind around it. And, if people want to give me shit for Pete Carroll, give me a name down below. I bet you they're a better head coach right now than Pete Carroll. Give me a name. Josh McDaniels, better head coach than Pete Carroll. Give me a name that you want the Raiders to hire. Better head coach than Pete Carroll. I don't even need to see the name. It's a better head coach than Pete Carroll. And it sucks because Pete is such a good freaking guy, man. He is a great guy. We know he's a great guy. Stabler, we need a wide receiver 1 who is available in free agency. We don't need a wide receiver 1. Again, to me, you have Brock Bowers. That's going to be your wide receiver 1. Because if you want a wide receiver 1 in free agency, you're going to go out and you're going to spend. The top wide receiver in free agency is George Pickens. And if you want a number 1 wide receiver, be ready to go spend $25 million plus for a receiver. I don't want to spend that type of money on a receiver. I don't. You have a good player in Trey Tucker who has showed you that if we had a good quarterback, he would be doing so much better. He would be. The amount of routes that Tucker's getting open on that Gino just doesn't look at, it's there, man. I mean, it's there. Jack Besh is another good receiver. But to me, you're talking 25 mil. Spend that 25 million on a defensive tackle. Spend that 25 million on an edge. Spend that 25 mil on an offensive lineman. If it's not somebody that puts their hand in the dirt, I ain't spending 25 million. I'm not doing it. So, do we need a wide receiver 1? We need another receiver. I agree with you. I do agree with you. But we also have Brock Bowers. And if people are like, well, he's a tight end. What if we made Brock Bowers our wide receiver 1 and you made Michael Mayer our tight end? Again, there's priorities to this. And to say that we need a wide receiver 1, to me, a wide receiver 1 is a want. We need an offensive line. We need a defensive tackle. We need an edge rusher. We need to win in the trenches. I feel like, again, I hope my wife doesn't get mad at me for this, but I don't know how many other wives love to spend money. I'm appreciative that I feel like I can support my wife. I can support us. I can put a roof over our head. I put food on our table. I am, the breadwinner, and I am somebody that provides a lot. But Alex also does, all the other stuff for us. She does the schedule. She helps around the house. She takes care of Chuck. She does all of the other stuff. We are a great, great team. But I also always have the conversation of there's wants and there's needs. We want to be able to, I don't know, get a new carpet in the living room, right? We need to be able to pay our bills. We need our offensive line, bills, mortgage, offensive line. Being able to go out on date night on Thursday, that's a want. A wide receiver one for the Raiders is a want. It is not a need. And that's because we need offensive line. I don't know if you agree with that. I don't know if you disagree with it, but that's where I'll stand on that. Let's go to Can't Walk. My guy Can't Walk. I gave you a shout out the other day on the show. I don't remember what I said exactly. Hopefully it was yesterday, or it was yesterday's live show. It might have been Monday, but I gave you a special shout out. I don't know if you saw it or not. It's all love, my man. What's up, Mitch? Love how the Raiders are going right now. Seems like they're in control of their own destiny if they make the right choices. They are in control of their own destiny. And, the right choices to try to win a game, I actually think it's starting Aidan. But I also will say that if they start Geno Smith, that will give us the best chance for the number 1 overall pick. And I want the number 1 overall pick. That's what I want. What's up with it?
Oh, I thought you used this camera.
No, I got this one here. That camera is going to be for tomorrow, for Thursday. I don't want to tell them what we might do because I don't know if we're going to be able to execute it or not. But tomorrow, if you want to,
if you like Chugs with his shirt off, you're going to love tomorrow's show.
If you like Chugs and you like chugging a beer, pull up tomorrow to the Raiders Report. Thursday Night Football. We will be going live at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time, 1 hour before kickoff. But I agree with you, Camp. If we lose every game from here on out, we got the number 1 overall pick. So if you want the number 1 overall pick, you want the best head coach possible, it's right there at your fingertips, and you can get it. It's right there at your fingertips. All right, let me look here real quick. All right, let me keep it moving. Let's go to my guy. It's been a minute. Just saying hello. Miss you, my guy. I miss you too, buddy. Miss you too. I was actually talking about you the other day because one of the Raiders guys in our Monday call, I don't know who it was, maybe Venthrak or Nabman here to help me, but I was talking about like the best places that I've been, and I was telling like how much I love San Diego and all the awesome people that I met in San Diego, and how much fun we had at that one brewery. I will hold that very, very near to my heart. That day was a lot of fun. What was the place we went to that had the Bo Jackson beer? They literally had it like on tap. I don't remember the name. Let's go to EE. You figured it out. Mitch, have you seen the new pistachio commercial with Josh Allen in a Raider uniform? What a tease. I have not. The new pistachio commercial, I'll have to look it up, but that sounds like a tease of all teases. If Josh Allen was the quarterback of the Raiders this season, we would be in the playoff hunt. I think we'd be 8-5. And I know that's saying a lot, but that Buffalo Bills team's not any good. Josh Allen, I think it's really hard to argue that Josh Allen's not the best player on the planet right now. I'm not saying he's MVP. Matthew Stafford, I'll say, deserves to be the MVP. But I mean, Josh Allen, what he does on a daily, I mean, he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. Mitch, Michigan just fired Moore. I can only hope Minter isn't their top candidate. I think I've said this before, so I don't know when the super chat came in, but he is their top candidate, and everything that I've heard is he's going to be the next Michigan head coach. Let's go to Raiders. Raiders GE. Would you be okay with Mendoza sitting for a year behind Aidan O'Connell or some other bridge quarterback? Would I be okay with it if it was the Raiders' plan? Sure. I'll just say this. You're not going to get any of the head coach candidates that I talked about if you're going to tell them in year one that Aidan O'Connell is going to be the Raiders starting quarterback and Mendoza is going to sit. So, like, I would say as long as you're okay getting, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of a coach that probably won't be a very popular candidate, but again, like, nobody in my top 10's taken, like, nobody's going to sign up for that. So it would be, I would say, another, like, very similar, like, Pete Carroll situation where, you know, you're going after your top two candidates. Let's say it's, you know, Shula and Kubiak. And then they go, well, we're not going to do that down there below. And then you have to go out and get, I don't know, insert somebody else's name. So, like, I mean, maybe if you got a Mike McCarthy, maybe if you got a Mike Tomlin, but to me, that's not the recipe that the Raiders are going to go. If they go out and they get Mendoza, I am a big believer that that's going to be your Raiders starting quarterback week 1. Personally. What is this positivity? Oh, wow. The Eagles took out the positivity rabbit in the locker room. It's too bad. I was hoping for more positivity in that locker room. Let's go to Born a Raider fan. Didn't Pickett get sacked last week, though? Probably. But Kenny Pickett also showed much better ability to be able to move and manipulate a pocket. Like, I don't think Pickett's super athletic. The way that I would say, like, Mendoza to me from an athletic standpoint is very similar to Kenny Pickett, where he's not going to wow you with his athletic ability, but if he needs to be able to run to extend a drive, he can do it. Like, to me, Picket's got the level of mobility as like a Brock Purdy, a Baker Mayfield, where you don't look at that quarterback as being mobile, but they can run if need be. Like the mobility that I was hoping that Geno Smith was going to have at the beginning of the season. Because Geno doesn't run Geno literally doesn't move anymore. And he can't move anymore. It's a problem. Jason, hell no, Pete must go. Tired of losing every damn year. He is incompetent. I am tired of losing every damn season. I agree with you that he is an incompetent head coach. And, that's not a fair thing to say it might not be a fair thing to say to some people because of his track record. But I'll just say this, imagine, here's an analogy that I gave to somebody the other day because, unfortunately, I don't really think that their football IQ is all that high. I said, imagine if you're dating somebody. And I said this because I see it all the time. I like The Golden Bachelor. I like love, call me crazy. I like old people falling in love, call me crazy. But imagine if you were married for 30 years and you had a beautiful marriage and you were the best damn husband that you possibly could have been, your best damn wife that you could have been in that marriage. For whatever reason, the marriage separates. You two think it's both healthy for you to separate your ways, just like Seattle and Pete did. And then you get into a relationship, and you're in that relationship, and you are awful. You're cheating. You're showing loyalty to other people before the person that you're with. And you look at your significant other and you go, well, it's not me. It's got to be you because I was great in my last marriage for the last 30 years. That's what Pete Carroll is doing right now to the Raiders to me. And when he talks about the podium and he's up there like, well, I've never been in this situation before. I've never lost this many games. I've never been this team's never been this bad, but the Raiders were bad before. That's how I look at it. And would anybody stay in that relationship? The answer to that is no. And I know Pete Carroll was once a great head coach, but if Pete can't look and see what he's doing, and if people outside of the Raiders realm haven't seen how much Pete Carroll and this coaching staff has failed since February, again, I'm just not going to be able to convince you otherwise. And that's fine. I like to believe that I'm going to be able to convince people or at least steer people in the right direction. It's always going to be your job at the end of the day to make a decision. But Pete Carroll right now, I feel like what he's doing and what he's saying is, I was a really good husband for 30 years and I'm failing. The relationship is failing now, not because of me, because I was great. It's failing because of you. And I think like that's also a really big problem of the Pete Carroll regime. They point fingers at people like that got no business being pointed at. And I talked to a Raiders beat reporter the other day and they were like, well, I want you to listen to more of our content. So I did today. The first thing that I did this morning, I tweeted about it. The very, very first thing that I did today, I saw a video that JT the Brick put out. And the conversation that I had was not with JT the Brick. I want to be very clear on that. JT put out a video of an interview with him and Pete Carroll. So I said, you know what? I had a Raiders beat reporter watch an entire video that I did. They gave me, it was the one where I called out the beat reporters. That was a 30-minute video. They watched the entire thing. They gave me, or at least they told me they did. They gave me some feedback. We went back and forth a little bit. I think that person has asked better questions since that conversation. But I tune into this JT the Brick and Pete Carroll interview, and if you didn't see it, go check it out. It's on my Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365, and I'm watching the interview, and it's the 153 mark. 153 mark. They're having a conversation, and Pete Carroll goes essentially like he's talking about the Chargers game, and I don't remember the exact verbiage he used, so again, don't quote me on it, but he goes that Dante Thornton interception. For Pete Carroll to say that throw, so the throw happened where it was 2nd down and 9. We're at like our own 3-yard line. 2nd down and 9, and Gino threw it up the left side of the field to Dante Thornton, and it was a very unlucky interception. I want to be clear on that. It was an unlucky pick. Do I think Dante should have put a better effort on that ball? Yeah. Do I think it was the worst throw that Gino made? No. I get it was intercepted, and it landed in Tony Jefferson's hands. But for Pete Carroll to think of that play and say the Dante Thornton interception, I lost it in my mind because I was like, it's not a Dante Thornton Jr. interception. It is a ill-advised throw by Geno Smith, because when you watch the play, and I had a fan tell me, well, Mitch, the other side of the play, Trey Tucker's wide open. I went back and I looked at some of the tape, and there's 4 guys running routes there. Ashton Jeanty is available for the check down. Would have been a better decision. Again, 2nd down and 9 at your own 3. You check it down there to Ashton Jeanty, and I bet you it turns into 3rd down and 3, 3rd down and 2, 3rd down and manageable. Also, Brock Bowers is making his break. Yeah, there's 2 defenders there, but if Gino throws a laser beam, those 2 defenders aren't going to be able to get to the ball quick enough. Bowers is big enough to box him out, and that's a pickup, and maybe that's a gain of 8 or 9 yards. On the other side of the play, Trey Tucker absolutely cooks the corner, and I think if Gino puts a ball on him, dude, like that's going to be a big pickup. Instead, he throws the ball, and he only looks in one direction, and he's looking in that one freaking direction for Dante Thornton. But like, for Pete Carroll to address that play as a Dante Thornton Jr. interception, is everything wrong with this team? And it shows me that Pete doesn't look at that as a Geno interception. He's putting blame on a rookie. And for Pete to put a blame on a rookie like Dante, and again, like, Dante's a great kid. He is an outstanding kid. He is a great young man. His agent is a really good dude. They have been nothing but kind to me. But Dante is lacking confidence. And I don't think that Dante would disagree with that. I don't think his agent would disagree with that. I don't think any Raiders player would disagree with it right now. Dante Thornton Jr., when you watch him play, needs a little bit more confidence. So the last thing I'm going to do as a head coach is I'm going to talk to somebody who, is with the media, and I'm going to refer to a Geno Smith interception as a Dante Thornton Jr. interception, because Geno made the wrong read. He could have made 3 other reads that would have been the more correct read. I get that the ball Geno threw to Dante was intercepted and it was unlucky, but for Pete to refer to it as the Dante Thornton Jr. interception, that's a problem from a coaching staff standpoint. I think the other problem that I got is, like, if I'm in a room with Pete, and if I hear Pete say that, that's where our frustration for beat reporters come in here. And again, I'm jealous of the situation JT the Brick's in, because if I'm sitting in that room, I go, I'm going to be real. I would have cut Pete off. I would have been like, well, wait a minute, Pete. You can't say that it's a Dante Thornton Jr. interception. Geno threw the ball. He made the wrong read. That interception is on Geno Smith. It's not on Dante Thornton Jr. Like, that's where we got to get to. And when I see people that are inside of that building that don't hold people accountable, I wonder who Mark Davis talks to, if they're talking to more people in that building that don't hold certain people accountable, because I know Hondo talks to Pete Carroll all the time. I know Hondo has a lot of sources in that building. And when I hear Hondo saying that the Raiders should keep Pete Carroll, or if they fire Pete, they should hire John Gruden, I'm like, that's bad information. So, like, we just got to do a better job from top to bottom. It starts with content creators. It starts with beat reporters. It starts with fans. It starts with your quarterback. It starts with the head coach, front office. It starts with everybody. And we got to be able to get on the same page. And I don't like the division right now that is between the nation. Again, like, my goal before the year started was to get everybody else on the same page. It's one of the reasons why Pete Carroll was hired. Pete knows it. I was told by one of the Raiders owners, or my buddy was told by one of the Raiders owners, right? Like, Pete was brought in to rally the nation, to fill the stadium, to get Raiders fans on board with the idea of moving to Vegas and win football games at the same time. I don't know what Pete Carroll has failed more at, getting Raiders fans on board or winning football games. And it's just, you can tell it's not a well-coached team. It's not a well-coached team. Final super chat that I see here on the program today. And reminder, I've been live now for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. If you want me to stay live, we need more questions here. We need more super chats. It's the only way that we're going to be able to stay live here. If not, I will hop on out. And I just want to tell all y'all, greatly appreciate today's live show because I felt like we had a lot of really good conversations. I also like being able to make this style of content. I know a lot of times when I do a show with a producer, we do things a certain way. I also love being able to just sit up here, chop it up with all of y'all. I love being able to sit up here and just see who's rocking with me, down in the comments section. This is a whole new start for me in terms of how I am doing certain things. But, I see the Mr. Alexer, Rico 760, Elect 1 to Robert Jansen. I see you. I hear you guys, and I appreciate that you're tuning in. I want to be very clear on that. What up, Mike? Marcus Freeman as head coach of Mendoza or more. It's possible, not probable, but possible. 1% chance. I mean, Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken, just gave Marcus Freeman a deal until 2030. If Marcus Freeman is the Raiders' next head coach, it's not this year. It's next year because of his connection with CJ Carr and the Raiders' spy tech and Tom Brady's affection for CJ Carr as a quarterback. I was told some stuff. I already did a show on it. If you want to go look it up, CJ Carr, Raiders Report, look up the YouTube video that I made. I don't even know how many weeks ago at this point. But CJ Carr is somebody that's no doubt on their radar. I'll say this, though. What's a better job? Like, honest question. What's a better job? Raiders head coach or Notre Dame head coach? I think we have to look ourselves in the mirror here and go, unless we have the number 1 overall pick, Notre Dame's a better job. Right? And it is a better job. Because if I'm Marcus Freeman and I got my contract until 2030, now sure, the Raiders could come along and say, hey, I want this job. But Marcus Freeman can't leave Notre Dame and then take the Raiders job. He's got to get fired by Notre Dame. And in today's day and age of college football, I mean, you see coaches get fired and look at James Franklin, got fired, puts $50 million in his pocket. And for the Raiders, you're not gonna do a John Gruden type of deal. And I think the only way you get a guy like Marcus Freeman is if you do a true John Gruden type of deal. That's way, way past 2030. I love Marcus Freeman as a head coach. I'll say this because I said this to my buddy who's a Notre Dame guy, and he goes to a bunch of games. Marcus Freeman reminds me of a young Mike Tomlin. Just the way that he presents himself, the way that players respond to him, the fiery nature that he brings, the professionalism that he brings on just every time he talks at the podium, the way that his team responds. I don't love that they backed out of the bowl game. I will say I think that's a soft move, and I only say that because I would do anything to be able to play another college football game or a college baseball game. And I bet you there's some players on that team that would have loved an opportunity to go play. I think they did that because it's NIL, and there's just a lot. It's just different the way that the game's played. But I love Marcus Freeman. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think I'll be curious to see what Notre Dame decides to do because I keep busting the balls of our Broncos host, Moose, because he's a big Notre Dame guy. And I'm always like, I think they should join a conference. I get they'll lose money, but I think they got hurt this year from not being in a conference. Also, SEC bias. There's a lot of things that are wrong with the way that college football gets broken down. But I would love for Notre Dame to join a conference because I would love to see Notre Dame in a conference championship game. But if you're a Notre Dame fan, you might not feel the exact same. All right, y'all. I'm getting ready to hop on out of here. Again, I've been live for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Wanted to go live for the breaking news of the Las Vegas Raiders coming out and saying that Geno Smith is unlikely to play. Ian Rapoport reported it. Pete did say that he's day-to-day, so we'll kind of see how that one ends up going down. It is expected that Kenny Pickett is going to be the starter. I will be live tomorrow on the Raiders Report, so make sure you guys are on the lookout for that one. I'm going to be live tomorrow starting at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll say it again. Whoever the MVP of the show is on Thursday, you get to make your own deal. You get to create, whatever the heck you want to do. And I messaged Venthrak yesterday. I said, hey, Venthrak, there's somebody that is a loyal Thursday Night Football watcher, loyal watcher of the Raiders Report, dealing with a tough time. And we've been able to build a really cool community here. And I hope that you guys show up tomorrow. I hope that you rally for this person. I'm trying to get a hold of them. So I don't, because again, I'm not going to put their, I don't want to say laundry, but I'm not going to put, them out there if they don't want people to know what's going on. But this person, I think, is definitely in need of a smile. And I know that we can do that tomorrow. It's going to be a shit game. I'll tell you that. It's Buccaneers, Falcons. I don't give a flying flip really about the game, but we're going to have some fun tomorrow. And if you've ever wanted, and I mean this, like we're working really hard on something in the back end here. If you've ever wanted to chug a beer on the show, and maybe it's not a beer, maybe it's a shot, you want to do some push-ups, I don't care. But essentially tomorrow we're going to do something special for when people bang on the program. Because again, I'm not drinking any beers. I got my own stuff that I'm dealing with. But I had a Raiders content creator hit me up like, dude, I would love to chug beers on your show for you. Be ready to go tomorrow, because essentially what's going to happen is it's going to be first come, first serve. I'm going to give you a phone number. It's not my phone number. I want to be very clear. It's our chat sports phone number. I'm going to give you a phone number. You're going to be able to FaceTime me. And in that moment, bang, you better be ready to go. We're going to give you like 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. You can say whatever you want on the show. Make sure you're all like the, music in the background. If you got music, your TV, that stuff's going to have to be muted or else we will not put you through. But it's going to be very similar to almost like a radio call-in show, but it's going to be with video. And I'm excited to be able to do it. It's a brand new thing that I want to be able to bring to the table because I want more people to see y'all's faces. You guys see my face all the time. And doing these IG calls that I've been doing, I want more people to get to know other people around Raider Nation, because I think it'd be really freaking cool. You go to a game and you're like, holy shit, that's Rebel Montana. Holy shit, that's Ron Raspberry. Holy shit, that's David Zahn. Holy crap, that's Raider Ron, right? Like there are certain people, and there's so many people that watch the show, and you don't have to super chat to get on tomorrow. It's going to be, I know people like to get crazy and bang to get the party started. And I also know there's other people that can't have the ability to bang that want to get the party started. If you got a cell phone and you got FaceTime, get ready to go tomorrow. Make sure you got a 6-pack ready to go. Make sure you got some shots ready to go. Make sure you're just ready to scream Raiders, because we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow on the Raiders Report. All right, y'all. Peace out. Looks like Kenny Pickett starting. I wish it would be Geno Smith, but each and every one of y'all, I will see you tomorrow live on the Raiders Report, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:15 p.m. Pacific, live on the Raiders Report. If you made it this far in the vid, shout out to you. I don't know how to end this.